Which reminds me,
I have something here for you. Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough.
Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal.
Just a flesh wound.
Oh, that cut off really quick then. Didn't expect it to cut that quick. How you all doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Cheers. Good.
I forgot to add earlier on. We was in the backstage area. Chef might be joining us a bit later on. So,
Right, that's it.
Cool.
We'll quickly go through the chat before we get going. Because I'm thinking, right, I mean, we've got a couple of hours and we've got 3 trilogies and a bunch of TV programs to talk about. So we're going to have to be quite quick, I think.
Not going to be long talking about the TV programs, though, is it?
Well, I don't know. I've got plenty to say about them.
How much you love them?
Oh, yeah, I love them, yeah. Retro Bait, how you doing, mate?
Tetley.
You Start Gamer. And then I think it's just everyone just saying hello to each other. Oh, no, Chef's in the chat. And we got Res Tendo as well. And I think that's it so far. Yeah. So, what I was thinking, before we get, because I was thinking of breaking it down into each trilogy, maybe go in order of release sort of thing. But before we do that, I was thinking, we'll say what our favourite film was before we get started, because I think we need to do that. Right? So I'll go first while you're thinking.
Say the same.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but I just want to see if anyone says anything different. So mine's Empire. So definitely the best one as far as I'm concerned. Scott?
Empire's probably the best film. But my favourite is Return of the Jedi, Princess Leia in that costume. Oh, yeah. Return of the
Jedi. Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair dues. Pete?
Yes, it's Empire, yeah.
Yeah. Ed?
As a film, Empire, but I think nostalgia, Jedi. Based on my age, what I saw first.
Yeah,
I'm probably cheating a little bit, but as a film, taste mature, Empire, but nostalgia, something about Jedi.
Yeah,
that makes sense, because that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, Ewoks and that would have been appealing when you're younger, yeah. So yeah, true. I was always
I think I was 8 years old when Jedi come out. My dad took me to the cinema to see it, and when Yoda dies, spoiler by the way, everyone. When Yoda dies in that film, I cried. I was 8 years old, and that was the first time I ever cried at a film. It's the only time I've cried at a film.
Bullshit.
Pedro? As he froze up?
The Rise of Skywalker.
Fuck off. There's no way that's your favourite film.
You hear me? No, it's not. It's Empire. Everyone's favorite is
I
Empire.
was
No,
going
I
to say,
don't.
there's no one would say Rise of Skywalker. Come on.
The Rise of
Don't play
Skywalker is
poker
my
with this guy.
favorite of the Disney ones.
Really? That's interesting. So that's your favourite of the Disney?
Oh,
Yeah, because
Is
it's
that,
shit
is that the third one?
and it's more enjoyable
Yeah.
that's debatable.
because it's such a mess of a film. It's you
Well,
can
yeah.
easily watch it because it is so stupid.
See, now
Jamie
Jamie's
wrote
saying here,
Revenge of the Sith.
yeah, I mean, Revenge of the Sith, I'd say is the best prequel film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on age, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
totally.
Yeah, because I mean, really young kids would have been a Jar Jar fan, for example.
That's a really interesting thing, and I know this is kind of not related to starting at the original trilogy, but just about the age thing that, because a lot of us watched it on TV, right? Star Wars of a certain age. I mean, I was born in 1980. I certainly didn't see them at the cinema until later, but Star Wars was on TV quite often during the early 80s, but Empire didn't debut on British TV till 1988.
Yeah, it's quite late.
Christmas.
Yeah.
And then Jedi was Christmas 1989. So I would have been like 8/9 years old, 7, 8. That's like prime time. But if you remember around that time, late 80s, all the toys and everything was still in all the toy shops were all still Star Wars. And even though it was so long after the films had come out, that's how big it was. It was still this huge deal. And although, by the time I saw Empire on TV, it would have been like 8 years old. It was still going and buying the toys in the shops. That's just like would never happen now because they want to churn it out now, like the next thing.
Yeah. Interesting comment here from you, Star, New Hope. But of course, when we were kids, it wasn't called New Hope, was it? It was called Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars, yeah.
Just Star Wars.
Yeah. Of course, not everyone is as old as Pete.
That's true.
This is a good comment. What Raz is saying here, where he's saying it stack up the OG trilogy, Rogue One. Now, this Rogue One is the only film I like that Disney's done, if I'm honest.
It's amazing. A really amazing film.
Yeah, I think they did well with it. And it's got a very serious tone to it as well, which is quite clever. Don't hate me. I've never seen a Star Wars film. Best way to watch them. Watch them in the order they come out in.
Yeah.
Because you lose something if you watch them in the numerical order. Let's just say. Skip Disney ones. Don't watch them at all. They're crap. Just Rogue One. That's it. Right. So obviously, as we're going to talk about trilogies in order of release, we're going to talk about the original trilogy. So, what was the first original trilogy film you guys watched? Because for me, I mean, I'm 46 now, so obviously I didn't watch in 77 because I wasn't born at that point. I was born in 78. And I remember I watched, I think I was probably about 4 maybe. I know I watched E.T. at the cinema first. And then long after, I watched a double bill of what is now A New Hope, followed by a break and then Empire after that. So what was the first film you watched in the OG trilogy, Scott?
It was Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars was the first one I see.
At home or in the cinema?
It was at home on a dodgy. We used to have this guy come round and he had 3 fingers on one hand, and he used to scare the shit out of me. And he come round with a suitcase and it was full of copied videos. And that's the first time I saw Star Wars was off him.
My first home version was from a guy that used to pirate them. He used to come around in a van. I wore that tape out. Yeah. Pete.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, I didn't see any of them at the pictures until like in the 90s, when they re-released them.
Yeah.
But I saw Star Wars like 100 times before I saw Empire. So I would have seen Empire in 88 when it first came out on telly, and then 89 for Jedi. But I watched Star Wars because we recorded it off TV probably around like 84 or something, I watched it literally like 100 times over those years, just obsessively.
Well, Star Wars, should I say, A New Hope? They played that every year at Christmas, didn't they? For quite a few years that I remember on the TV.
Yeah, I think it was every year apart from 1 or 2 between 82 and like 89. I think they maybe missed a couple of years, but it was always like Christmas or New Year. It was always on, you know.
Yeah. Sega Saturn they'd saying here about Trek. I like Star Trek too. So yeah. These days, well, actually, I was going to say these days I probably like Trek more, but actually I don't, because it's now Kurtzman Trek, and oh god, that guy, he can fuck off. Anyway, moving on. Ed.
I think it's searching the memory banks. I think it was Jedi at the cinema, but it wasn't. I wasn't when it originally came out, because I would have been too young. I would have been 5. I'm sure my mum took me back. Maybe it was a bit of a re-release or something, but I've got memories of seeing that, like Santa Claus the movie and the Black Cauldron, all around the same time. And I was looking it up in preparation for this, and it was kind of 85ish. So I reckon it was that, unless I was on the sofa and not really soaking up episode 4 on the telly.
Santa Claus the movie. What a
Dudley, is it Dudley Moore? Yeah. Left an impact in not a great way.
So you're saying that you reckon it was out when, around 85, did you say?
I've still got like a commemorative, like a program basically from seeing it with my mum, and it can't have been, because I was born 78, so I would have been 5 when it came out, and that would have been way too young. My mum wouldn't have taken me then, so I think I was maybe about 7. So maybe there's another release at the South End Odeon. Another showing.
Well, that's the thing. Like when I watched them, like I said, it was a double bill. So, and Empire would have been out probably 2 years before that. So I must have watched like a rerun, and it was a double bill.
They used to do like matinees, though, didn't they? Years ago, you could take your kids to go and see a film for a quid or two, and watch older films. So it's probably something like that.
Before COVID, they still did that actually at my local one. We used to take the kids sometimes to go and watch certain things, if there was a kids one on during the holidays. And like you say, a couple of quid, and that was it. Pedro, what's the first one you watched?
I'm trying to remember if it was either the first one or Empire. I can't really remember. I remember watching it on a dodgy VHS. I was born in 83, so probably 88, 89, watched it for the first time. But yeah, it's either going to be New Hope or Empire, but I'm not 100% sure which one we watched first. But I loved it.
All I remember is that opening of A New Hope, when you see the old, like, first of all, you see the 2 ships, and then obviously that bit when you see the door disintegrating and all the stormtroopers coming. But I remember the first time you saw Vader, I was like, who's this guy? Like, the minute I saw him, like most kids were fascinated with Luke. I was, and I was like, I want to know who this guy is. I don't care about this whiny bitch over here. Who's the guy in the black suit? Like, who's this guy?
Darth Vader was just the ultimate, though, weren't he?
Yeah.
Has there ever been a better villain?
Yeah, and to introduce him so quickly is like bold.
Yeah.
Well, let's not forget the way they introduced him as well. For a kids' film, he literally breaks a guy's neck, within the first few scenes, and it's in what they call a kids' movie.
Yeah, but that was when cinema was great, all this sort of PC stuff now. Wouldn't dream of it now, but back then, just a normal kids film, wasn't it? There was lots of that.
Yeah, but you know what? I like, that's something that always kind of stuck with me with Star Wars, and I think why I've loved Star Wars so much my whole life, and it means so much to me, is because at the time, I don't think I watched much apart from like cartoons and really kiddie stuff. I watched Ghostbusters and I watched Thundercats and all the amazing cartoons we had, but they were all very kiddie. And then you had Star Wars, which was it was very clearly aimed at kids, But then you watch it and it's like proper, like not only, you know, stuff like, the villain comes and breaks someone's neck, but it was like, this is like in this amazing universe they've created in space, like love space and everything, what every kid does. And it's like, this is so detached from what I've been watching as like a 5-6-year-old. You know what I mean? It's such an impact, I think.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of the first films I ever, like what you said. I grew up with cartoons and stuff. I'd imagine Star Wars was the first proper film that I sort of engaged with and watched, especially like when Obi-Wan in the bar chops that guy's arm off.
Well, yeah, that's another scene, isn't it? Pretty graphic.
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean, the first half of A New Hope is really messed up. Obviously, Vader breaking some guy's neck. Obi-Wan chops the guy's arm off, and then they go and find the charred, still smoking remains of Uncle Owen.
Yeah.
It's like it's a kids' movie.
Oh,
It's a kids' movie, and it's just super grim.
Did you know in the Dark Horse comics, the storyline they done in that was, you remember the line in Empire when Vader looks at Boba Fett and he says, "No disintegrations." You remember?
Classic.
Right? Well, they used that line and did a comic when it was Dark Horse. It's not canon now, obviously, and it was that he was sent to find Luke and basically killed his aunt and uncle. So that's why he says to him, "No disintegrations," because of what he did to them. That was the story they used in the comic. Quite clever, I thought. Yeah. Of course, you know, good story writing. It's not allowed to be canon now, so it's not anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think I had watched other films before Star Wars. Like I say, I saw E.T. at the cinema before I watched him. And, you know, E.T. kind of resonated with me, but not like Star Wars did. Not at all. I don't know what I think it's the characters with Star Wars. You can relate to them, can't you? Even as a kid. You know, it's so well written.
So when you grew up, did you see the films in order? Because I remember seeing Star Wars first. Then I went to the cinema and see Return of the Jedi. And I didn't even know Empire existed.
No, I saw them in order.
You must have been like, what the hell's going on here?
I was like, what? But I can remember seeing Empire for the first time. And it was after I'd gone to the cinema and see Jedi. I think my dad picked it up on video, Empire Strikes Back, and I was just absolutely blown away by it.
Yeah.
And it kind of all made sense then, because at being a kid, I just thought it jumped from the first one to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. I mean, with Return of the Jedi, I mean, it's a funny one because I saw it at the cinema, but somehow I must have had like a memory blank or something, because we got like a dodgy pirate of it, and for years I was watching that, and what I didn't realise until they released them to buy was that the copy I had been cut so that it would fit on the tape, so there was bits missing. Now I don't know how I didn't cotton onto this as a kid, because obviously it would have been slightly different, but I remember there was a bit on the copy I had where, you know, where Luke dives off the speeder bike, right? The whole bit that happens after that, up until when he runs along and he finds Han and that was missing. So that whole bit where he lights his lightsaber and then chops the front of the speeder bike off, that was all missing out of my copy of it. So I remember when I bought it, I was like, when did that happen? Like, you know, like what's going on here? Like, and then I realised it chopped a few minutes out to fit it.
They've done that a lot though, because I can remember when they first aired, or when I remember watching it, they aired Empire Strikes Back on TV, and they cut a load of that out as well.
Yeah.
And I can remember when I watched it on video, and there was like a whole segment that was missing from the TV version to what there was on the video.
Yeah. Well, this is it. You didn't have any long playback then, I suppose. So if you're a pirate, and you had to try and chop it down to fit on the tape, didn't you?
Yeah.
One thing I always associate with Star Wars, which is just a product of me having recorded it at Christmas, and because they were always on at Christmas, they always had the same ads, and it was the sofa sale ads or like Rumbelows or whatever.
Yeah.
Rumbelows.
Whenever I used to watch them, you'd see the old ads from years ago, and it was like sofa sale, you know, which they still happen every Christmas, but it's just funny to watch them.
Rumbelows. I always find it funny when I hear that name. I don't know why. It's just something funny about the sound of it.
It sounds like a euphemism for
food
poisoning or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a shop, does it? You know what? Han Solo was even more popular than Luke. Yeah, that's true. Like Han was. And I don't care what anybody says, right? Han shot first, right? And they should have left it as that.
Well, Han was the only shot, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was. Yeah, this is true, actually. When you think about it, people say Han shot first. Actually, he was the only one who shot. That's right. And the thing for me, I never understood why they changed it because
they didn't want to portray him as a cold-blooded killer. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to make it like he was defending himself.
I get the idea behind it, but by leaving it would have been even better because you would have seen how much his character changed throughout the films. That he went
through now. Which is why they intentionally done it in the first place.
Yeah. So
because he was out for himself, didn't give a fuck about anyone else, and then his character arc throughout the films, he does actually genuinely care at the end of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, Disney like to fuck all that shit up.
I will get to that. Was this the newest to the oldest? Oh, God. Don't watch any of the Disney ones except Rogue One. Just forget the rest exist. Can you all do an impression of Darth Vader? No, I don't think so. Right? No. I'm not even going to get close to that. I've actually got a signed picture by David Prowse to the left of me. And you got to pick what photo you wanted. And the one I picked was the shot where Lando, Boba, and Vader are in the corridor on Bespin. Just after he walks out where they're torturing Han. Yeah, I got it signed. There's a little message on it too. Another one we lost, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Did you meet him, Lee? Or was it like you sent away from it? Or
well, that one I got that off his website, but I did meet him when I was younger. But he was in full costume and was actually playing Vader.
So I think he toured the toy shops, didn't he? He came to one local.
That's right.
I don't think I went, but I remember my mum telling me that it did happen.
I met him in the most blasé way ever. It was one of my YouTube mates actually years ago, and we were at an expo thing, and he'd been doing like the interviews, and I just came up to say hello to him, and he goes, "Oh, this is David Prowse," and I'm like, "Oh, hi," and that was it, kind of just like a hi, and he said hi. It was just like so casual.
I met him as the Green Cross Code Man.
Yeah. He was.
He came to a big sort of like fete sort of thing, like a carnival at a park in my local town, and that was when he was promoting the whole Green Cross Code. That's how I met him.
So what happened with me was there was a shop in Gravesend called Nuxley Toys, and there was a couple of them around. I think there was one in Welling maybe as well. And basically my parents took me because I used to buy my Star Wars figures from there every week with my pocket money. I had no idea why I was there. Kept asking, you know, and there was another kid that blew it. He obviously saw him walking down the road, and all I heard was, "It's Darth Vader," like that. And I remember turning around, and then in comes an Imperial Stormtrooper, then Vader, who had to duck to get in the doorway. He was so tall, right? And then another Stormtrooper. And I remember they stood next to my mum, and he absolutely dwarfed my mum. Like the top of her head wasn't even to his shoulder. Like, it was so funny. As a kid, I'm looking up, and as a kid, you think your parents are quite tall, don't you? And then you see Darth Vader standing next to one of them, and you're like, wow, he's tall, you know? So, but yeah, unfortunately, he was in character. So when he signed, because I got a piece of paper with a Darth Vader print on it, he signed it Darth Vader, not David Prowse. So, but luckily now I've got the proper signature now. So, but yeah, it was nice. Like, I think some actors nowadays, you wouldn't get that. They'd want to take the mask off so that everyone knows it's them, wouldn't they? But he didn't. He just played along, full character, all the stuff on. And it was a proper suit as well. It wasn't one of these cheap knockoff ones. This was the real deal, you know? So, yeah.
He got done dirty, mate, didn't he?
Yes. Yeah, he did, yeah. Well, it's because he kind of didn't do himself any favours because he had a bit of a reputation for letting the cat out of the bag on things, didn't he? So, unfortunately, when he didn't do it, he got blamed for it. So, just reading the comments here. Was this Bet the Shed is freezing? Oh, he's on about Paul, I'm guessing. Bet the Shed is freezing.
Oh, yeah.
At what point should I mention I haven't watched any Star Wars movie? Yeah, me and Skilly have had this conversation. You got no excuse right now. You've got plenty of time. You can watch all of these.
Is that because Skelly doesn't like sci-fi, or
No, he does like sci-fi. I'm sure that's what you told me. Great Chewbacca impression. Oh, hello. Anyone want to know the score? Sunderland,
is that
James.
Sunderland? Sunderland are
Yeah.
losing to Leicester, for fuck's sake.
6
I was
foot
hoping,
5.
I was hoping Sunderland would beat them tonight.
6'5". That's probably about right. He was something like that, wasn't he? He was really tall.
Mm.
Although the guy, I forget his bloody name now, that played Chewbacca, he was taller, wasn't he?
Peter Mayhew.
Peter Mayhew, that's it. Yeah. I don't know why his name went right out of my head then. Of course, he wasn't that long ago when he went.
Mm.
I don't know if you know, we've recently lost the voice actor for Salacious Crumb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read about that
Yeah.
yesterday.
A few days back, yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because like when you heard that character in that film, I bet everyone was like, God, I wish the person who voiced that, you know what I mean? Everyone probably had a negative thought about that guy.
Yeah.
It's only when you get older and then they've gone, you suddenly realise, well, actually, you know.
I think he did quite a few as well. He did like Gremlins, didn't he? Something like Mowgli.
Oh, yeah.
Mowgli.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he did several characters in Star Wars as well. I don't think it was just Salacious Crumb in them.
Yeah, a
either.
lot of them did, didn't they? Like multiple, like Denny Delk and people like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I do remember that character. Even as a kid, I found him annoying. It's not bad. 8 degrees, yeah. Okay. Bit warmer. He's in Scotland, so that's quite impressive.
That's summertime there, then, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you? Yeah. So, so obviously, you know, as kids, Vader made a real impression on us all. What about the good guys? Who was your favourite good guy, would you say?
Han Solo,
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, he's a grey area good guy, but I always had a soft spot for Lando. He's quite smooth.
Yeah, Lando's pretty cool.
Yeah,
He's a ladies' man, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He's just like pretty slick. He's wearing a cape, for God's sake.
Well, yeah, and he pulls it off.
And he pulls it off, exactly. That it's like, wow. This,
Did you know that line he says to Leia when he first comes into it, that was ad-libbed, wasn't it? It wasn't scripted. When he looks at her and he goes, hello, what have we here? That was actually him ad-libbing. That wasn't in the script.
Yeah.
And they left it in because it was so good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Ed, what's yours?
I think the same, yeah. I think Han Solo, just obviously the roguish type. Yeah, obviously Luke was maturing, a bit subservient, I think, to the others. So yeah, probably Han's.
Yeah, he's a good character. But I mean,
Han Solo, first two films, and then Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, the thing for me, I
Because
think
they wasted. Han Solo was wasted in Return of the Jedi.
Was that
I think they
because
screwed the
there was a
character.
big debate whether he was going to come back for Jedi, weren't there?
Yeah.
So yeah, he didn't have much of a story, did he?
It felt like he was retrofitted into the script that was already written.
Yeah.
right, this comment that Jamie's got here, we would definitely be talking about this when we get to the prequels because he's got a point, and I do agree. But yeah, for me, I think it would. I don't know. Is it Han or is it? I mean, if I was going from all three films, it probably would be Han. But I do agree on Lando as well. I think it's genius when they brought Lando in. It was the best thing they could have done. And keeping him in it for Return of the Jedi definitely worked. That film was all the better for having him in it, without a doubt. I don't think Return of the Jedi would have been quite as good if he wasn't in the end part, you know, going through the Death Star. Yeah.
Totally agree with Pedro, though, about the you know, it being Luke in Jedi.
Yeah.
There's such a transformation. He's so whiny and like some of the like, I'm going to go to the Toshi station. Shut up. You know, he's so annoying.
Yeah.
But in like the best bit in Jedi as an adult, because I certainly didn't think this when I was a kid, but when I watch it now as an adult and he throws his lightsaber down and he's like, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
You know? It's like super admirable. He knows he's going to probably die. You know?
I still couldn't believe that fight with Vader though, because I mean, obviously now we've got the prequels. You know, the lightsaber fights were really ramped up, but in terms of the original trilogy, that lightsaber battle at the end of Return of the Jedi, I mean, that was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe my eyes when he actually managed to beat Vader. I was like, no way. Like, there's no way. Like, how do you do that? You know?
Yeah. Almost
he gave in to some sort of dark side.
Exactly.
Yes.
Almost lets it take him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
But what makes that fight more memorable and more emotional and more like, I'd say violent, is the music.
Yes.
Without that music, you wouldn't have anywhere near as much emotion and connection to Luke as he's basically just hacking away at Vader.
I think you could say about the music with all of the films at all points. I don't think they would have been the same without the music at any point. John Williams was so good at that in all of it, you know.
Do you guys have like a favorite piece of music from Star Wars?
Yes.
I should probably say Yoda's theme because it was at my wedding. But
wow.
Yeah, we had it when we walked out after we got married. But it's got to be Imperial March, I'd say.
I was going to say that's mine, Imperial March.
Yeah.
It's the most iconic for me, but sorry, Pete, after you.
No, after you, mate. Sorry.
Because it's probably the Imperial March, probably the most iconic, but the piece of music I love the most, probably obviously not the best film, Phantom Menace, Duel of the Fates, when they're
yes.
Darth Maul, that's just like with the choir going off, and it's just lovely build up.
Yeah.
Do love that piece.
Yes, it is a good piece of music. Like, yeah, that's my next one, I'd say, to the Imperial March. Yeah, that was great music. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, do you know the ironic thing about, talking about that last battle was that, what's his name? His name's gone right out of my bloody... I'm forgetting everybody's names today. The Emperor, at the end of in Return of the Jedi, obviously he was younger when he played him in that film than what he is in the prequels. Yet he's playing him younger. Like, just that one's always, although we know the story behind it, it's always been a weird one, right?
That, a different actor, wasn't there, in Empire Strikes Back as well? That seems to have these really weird protruding eyelids. It looks like an alien.
Like fucking eye sockets.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like the special editions. I prefer the original cuts." But I would say that's one change that I think was better, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I never could get my head around the original guy. It just didn't work for me at all, even when I was a kid.
I think the original guy was actually a female and was.
Oh, actually, you're right.
Lady,
you're right. It was.
It was a crew member, I think, like a costume designer, that they just whacked a load of muck on her face, but then replacing her with Ian McDiarmid for the special editions, to keep in line, obviously, with Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and then what was to come after 1997. I think it was genius. I think the only thing I don't like of replacing in Return of the Jedi is they replaced Sebastian Shaw, who played Vader without the helmet, with Hayden Christensen. I think it's kind of it pisses on the legacy that he had. He was Darth Vader in this movie. He was the human embodiment of Darth Vader, but they've replaced him with Hayden Christensen, which I didn't enjoy that. But I think, continuity-wise, keeping Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor through all of the films
Ian McDermott
is
that's
probably
his
one
name.
of the better, probably one of the better additions to the special editions.
I don't know if it's just the actor thing for the replacing the young Anakin, because like it's like the point where he became Anakin again. It kind of had symbolism that I wish they hadn't got rid of. But there's a whole argument here we could go down that should he even be a Force ghost at all? It's like he killed a bunch of kids. Like he shouldn't even be there, man. Like what the hell is that about? That's like some kind of Christian heaven where you can do whatever you want in life, but as long as you accept Jesus on your deathbed, they're like, you're in heaven. Yeah, cheers, mate.
Well,
funny
enough, that's the reason why they changed it to Hayden, because where he turns back to the good side, that's why his Force ghost ends up looking like him when he was younger, before he became a Sith. That's the reason why they changed him. But yeah, but I agree. Like, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of questionable things with, I suppose, the special editions, and also with how they handled Anakin as well. I suppose if it really comes down to it, I suppose this is probably a good juncture to maybe move into the prequels. I suppose, since we're kind of there anyway. So, right, here's a question then: Phantom Menace, a good film or a bad film? Scott, go.
Right, here we go. Phantom Menace. I think there's good parts to Phantom Menace. I really do. I can remember all the hype, waiting for it, queuing up for absolutely ages to watch it, getting in there and thinking, my God, this film's long. And I think what lets the Phantom Menace down is the pacing of the film. There's actually some really good set pieces in that film. I love the pod racing. I absolutely hate the actor they got to play Anakin. I thought he was annoying.
Yeah, well, that's child actors in general, I think. Though,
Jar Jar Binks, was he as bad as everyone made out? I don't think so. Yeah, it's the pace of the film. And there wasn't enough. There was not enough of this fucking guy.
Yeah. Agreed.
There needed to be more Darth Maul, because other than Darth Vader, Darth Maul is the second best baddie of all time.
Well, clearly George Lucas thought the same, because when he did the Clone Wars, they brought him back. So, so obviously he thought the same. But Pete,
sorry, what was the question? Oh, what did I think of Phantom Menace?
Yeah, good or bad?
I don't know. That's a really complicated question for me, and I have to remember that. What year was it? I mean, I must have been
99.
99.
Yeah, I was 18.
Hmm.
So it's like it wasn't really for me, probably. So there's that factor. I was probably expecting new Star Wars, and I remember being excited because it's new Star Wars, and it's okay, but there's a lot of diplomacy and all that, and I think that affects the pacing, like Scott says. But now I think maybe looking back on it, I prefer it more because I kind of understand all the politics and everything as a whole. Yeah. But at the time, it was a bit like, Jesus Christ, is it really made this for kids, and it's got all this politics in it? Like, do kids care about trade sanctions that much? I don't know if they do. But clearly, when you look at people who are 10, 20 years younger than us, they look back on those films just as fondly as we look back on the original films. So,
yeah, I don't mind the prequels. I'm going to say it right now. I actually don't mind them.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, I'll watch them as a kind of in background or whatever, for sure. And the third one I like, but yeah, I mean, I've got nothing against Phantom Menace. I don't think it's this trash film like the meme version of it is. Everyone says. And speaking of memes, it's gifted us thousands of glorious memes. So
yeah, that's true. That is true. Ed,
I wanted it to be great, but I think like everyone, there was such a hype for it. Felt like it was forever with Lucas pissing around with continuously editing the early ones. It's like, okay, we're going to get something fresh. But I do remember again Southend Odeon walking out and just feeling a bit like, man, what was again? I think was that good? I just didn't get a good feel for it. I think to Pete's point around, it wasn't. I don't think it was that designed for kids. I think it's kind of, as I've grown up a bit and matured a bit, I think the plot is actually, it's a bit way out, but it's actually fairly well constructed. But as a kid, when you're seeing the crawler writing pop up and it's talking about, you know, trade federations and embargoes and shit like this, it's just like, it was a bit of a turn off. And most of the acting isn't great. I mean, maybe the actors were okay, but the script was pretty poor. And it was sluggish, I thought. Darth Maul, if it wasn't for Darth Maul, I don't know what that film would have given me at all. And he only said three lines?
Well, that's not even Ray Park saying that. It's somebody else, isn't it?
No, it's Peter, the English guy, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I can't pronounce his,
the guy with the long surname.
Serafinovich.
Serafinovich, yeah, that's it.
Same like that.
He recorded quite a few lines for it, and obviously they cut it out. Apparently, he wasn't here to pay to get to the premiere himself, fly out to the States, and he was sitting there waiting for something that inevitably didn't happen at all.
Oh no!
So not good.
Before I move on, this comment here, I don't agree with this. Like Ian and Ewan, I thought Ewan was actually pretty good considering he was kind of like channeling Alec Guinness. I thought he did a pretty good job. And Liam Neeson, I think he was very good as Qui-Gon, and actually he was a key part to the story, because actually if you look back on the original, the prequel trilogy, he is the true Jedi when it comes down to it. What he was doing, that he was snubbed for by all the other Jedi, was actually the way they should have all been. And that's the ironic part of it. And I thought Liam Neeson played it really well. So, but
I can't put my finger on it, but Ewan in Phantom Menace, I rewatched them over the last week. It was a bit so-so. I do not necessarily kind of wooden acting, but I feel a bit false in places where he definitely got more into the flow.
It's kind of intentional, because the way they write it is that he's meant to be like he's meant to be the opposite of Qui-Gon on purpose. Like he's meant to represent everything that's wrong with the Jedi, and Liam Neeson, Qui-Gon's meant to represent what the Jedi should be. And so a lot of the reason why he comes across the way he does, like wooden and arrogant and a bit of a twat, is because he's supposed to be.
It's not just the writing. George Lucas deliberately directed some of these actors, particularly Hayden Christensen, to be more wooden, and I told him to deliver a performance that was more wooden. So I know he gets so much shit for his performance, but like George Lucas is directing these people to do this, you know.
There was a reason why he did that with him, was because he wanted his cadence to be the same as James Earl Jones. That was why he did it. So, but Pedro, we haven't heard, good or bad Phantom Menace. What do you think?
I think Phantom Menace is a film with two plots. You've got the plot, which is Darth Vader, and you've got the plot, which is trade embargoes and politics and the Senate and all this stuff, and it doesn't fit. You get excited for one plot and not excited for the other plot. So you'd rather watch the story or the origin story of Darth Vader, because that's essentially what the whole original prequel trilogy is about. And when you whack a load of political stuff into a film that is essentially aimed at kids, it makes the film feel boring. If you know what I mean. Like, I'd rather not sit there and listen to a load of political mumbo jumbo. I want to see Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson swirling lightsabers around. And we do get that. And I think the fact that there is these two plots going at the same time brings the film down. It doesn't not necessarily make it a bad film. It just makes it quite messy. And because I've literally just finished today, I finished watching Revenge of the Sith, and if I go back to the Phantom Menace, it does lead in quite well to Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, but on its own, it's a fairly poor movie compared to the other two. but it's
I
still
get
enjoyable because it is a Star Wars movie.
I get what you're saying,
That's
and I
just,
agree. I do agree with what you're saying, but also I kind of get what George was trying to do, because the thing is, what he's trying to do is he's trying to tell the story of how he becomes Vader, but at the same time, world build at the same time, isn't he? And I get what he was doing, because, I mean, essentially what he was setting up in the Phantom Menace is that because of the tax that's been put on the Trade Federation, that's then costing other members of the Senate money, which is why they then separate, which is why they become the Separatists, and that's what starts the war, which then gives them an excuse to come up with a clone army to fight against them, which then later becomes the Empire. All makes perfect sense. Good world building, but I do agree with you. Pacing's not great, and yeah, it needed. I don't know. It needed something, didn't it? And I get what you mean. Let's not forget though, it did bring us probably the best lightsaber battle ever in a Star Wars movie. You know, can't beat that. I don't think.
I wouldn't say it was. I'd say Anakin versus Obi-Wan at the end of Revenge of the Sith is probably the best, and then or maybe Luke versus Vader in Return of the Jedi. And there's moments in the fight at the end of Phantom Menace that look silly, and the fact that Qui-Gon is this master Jedi and is able to just get stabbed in the stomach, and then Obi-Wan, who is still a Padawan because he's not a full Jedi Master, is able to slice him in half. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Qui-Gon should have died in a different way, if you get what I mean, instead of just being stabbed in the stomach. Because we've seen in Disney Star Wars that a stab in the stomach with a lightsaber doesn't mean shit.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You only die if you're a man.
And then Rey's just bringing out fake. Yeah, you only die if you're a man. But I don't know. It's set to Duel of Fates. It's fantastic, but the choreography I think is slightly weak. And it could have been longer and slightly more emotional.
The reason why I say it's the better lightsaber battle for me, I mean, for starters, it was the first time you saw a dual-bladed lightsaber.
Yeah.
And Ray Parks is a great martial artist. I've got a signed picture of him as well. So, but it was very different. But my problem with the Anakin and the Ewan McGregor fight, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, it is a good fight, but I think it goes on too long. I think you kind of like, you don't switch off, but you do kind of, when you go back for a repeat viewing, I think you do kind of like start doing other things when the battle's going on.
That's what I was saying. Like in the background, I'm just like on my phone and stuff.
Yeah. Whereas I think, you know, the battle's shorter in Duel of the Fates, and you don't do that. And of course, it's cut in between as well, isn't it? So, one thing I will say, the part I do hate is the bit with Anakin in the Starfighter. That whole bit that bugs the hell out of me. I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. Shut up.
Yeah, but then that goes back to A New Hope, where Obi-Wan says to Luke that a Jedi by the name of Anakin Skywalker was killed by a Sith Lord called Darth Vader. But he said he was like one of the best starfighters in the galaxy. So they have to show that. But they already showed that with the pod race.
Yeah.
Because we know he can pilot.
Yes.
So you don't need to show him taking out the the Separatists
Trade Federation
ship thing, whatever they call it.
I mean, you know, obviously later on we see him do more piloting as well, don't we? Later on, but yeah. So what do we think overall then? Good or bad? What do you reckon? If we was to put this to a vote, like, what do you say, Scott? Good or bad?
What? Phantom Menace?
Yeah.
Good.
Good. So that's one yes. Pete?
I mean, if it was like a line down the middle, it's just on the edge of good, I'd say.
Yeah.
Right. Ed?
I'm going to go bad.
Bad.
If it's binary, I'm going bad.
Two good, one bad. Pedro?
I'm with Pete on this. I think it's got really good moments and it's got really not so good moments. And I'd have to be just on the cusp of good, and
Yeah,
just
I'd
on
agree.
the.
It gets good
I
for
think
me.
it's a neither
because of
agree or
Darth Maul.
disagree film.
Yeah, yeah.
If
Yeah.
Darth Maul wasn't in that film, then it would be bad.
Even the Game Boy Pod Racer was fun. Yeah, the Pod Racer games were great.
See, this is what's clever about George Lucas, and everything is for a toy, for a video game, for whatever. And the pod racing was perfect for a video
Oh
game.
yeah, and yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'll tell you what, there's some quite dark bits in that pod race though as well. I mean, like I don't know if any of you have ever noticed, because the thing with Phantom Menace especially is you can watch that film loads of times and notice something new every time. And yes, I do agree. The Metachlorian did kind of take a little thing away, but I get why he did it. But yeah, my point is, what I was making there was there's a bit where you see one of the pods crash in the cave. Little blue guy, something Rats his name is. I forget his name. But anyway, there's a part where when you see Qui-Gon getting his winnings, you see his family, his little kids, and the mum carrying the baby walking past, weeping in the background.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's really dark. You actually put that in the background. Like, a lot of people don't notice it, but that is pretty dark, isn't it, for a kid's film? Like,
Yeah, it's quite dark.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Still say Rogue One was the best. Yeah, I'd agree, Si. Yeah, absolutely. Phantom Menace.
You guys ever watch the dubs and then the reverse dubs? And I can't remember what they're called, but the third one's called Star Wars. What's it called? The Third Gathers. You seen them?
No.
I'll send you a link. It's on
Third
YouTube.
Gathers.
But basically, what they did was they were Chinese pirates and the Third Gathers is what they called Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. It's called Star Wars: The Third Gathers. So they took the knockoff DVDs they were selling in China, and they put subtitles on of what they thought the characters were saying.
I know what you're talking about now.
And then some fans took what there was in the Chinese and dubbed it back into English. So you watch the film and it's like basically English dubbing of what the Chinese thought they were saying. And it is hilarious. It's the best way to watch the films. Oh my God. It's so funny. Oh my God.
There's all sorts of weird lines like you have a nice brown cow and things like that.
It's nuts. Like, the bit at the end where sorry, I'm skipping to episode 3, but it's the only bit I can remember. But when like Palpatine goes, "Oh, in your anger, you killed her," and he goes, "No." Well, on this one, he doesn't say no. He says, "Do not want," and he just goes, "Do not want." It's so funny. Oh dear, it's absolutely mental.
Right,
I really recommend it.
Raz is putting the thumb screws on Scott. Scott has to tell us why Maul is anything to even consider. Well, it's not just Scott; it's me as well. I think Maul's a great character.
Darth Maul won the makeup. The whole design of him, I thought, was really different to Darth Vader. And the thing is jumping forward a bit, like what they done with Kylo Ren, I thought was a cop out. I thought Darth Maul deserved more because I really liked his character, really liked the style of him. He was quick, fast. You could tell he come from a martial art background. So he brought something really different to Star Wars, because all we'd really seen before him was Darth Vader, which, is powerful. But there was a finesse about Darth Maul, which I thought was really good. And I just thought that was a really brave move to have him as a villain. But it's almost as if they took a step back and didn't give him the screen time he deserved because they were a little bit worried about it. But something we haven't touched on with the Phantom Menace is people are going on about the politics and that. I didn't mind that. What I didn't like was all this whole science behind being a Jedi. The whole
the Metachlorians,
Metachlorian count and all that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a load of bollocks.
I
Didn't need to be in it.
I kind of get why he did it. I mean, yes, it does ruin the mysticism of the Force, right? It's meant to be
just keep it as a magical thing. Don't have
it's basically how it's described in the first film, right? So
yeah.
But I do get why he put it in, because you've got to try and point out why Anakin's special. And I think in order to do that, you've got to have some sort of scale to measure him on, right?
True. Yeah.
So
no,
I get why he did it. You know, I don't see how else he could have really done that. You know, so
I bet you just put Maul is hot. End of.
yeah. The other problem with Maul, right, is that I think the reason why he killed him off in the first film was because whoever he put in them first 3 films, he had to make sure that whoever it wasn't as good as Vader.
Yes.
You know, you've got to make him look weaker in some sort of way. You know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think what happened.
I think that comes into the.
I think he killed him
the
too
rule
soon.
of 2.
Yes. Yeah. The rule of 2. Yeah.
Yeah, but
they can't set it up for Vader to be, because it's supposed to be master and apprentice. So Vader becomes Sidious's apprentice in the 3rd film, but he wouldn't, because of the rule of 2, he wouldn't be able to have an apprentice if Maul was still alive. I mean, they could have kept him and had him in Attack of the Clones,
but didn't
and given him more screen time.
Didn't Palpatine though always have his eye on Anakin?
Well, there's a couple of things with this, right? So for starters, Palpatine's not following that rule anyway, because it's not technically it's not canon now. But I mean, there was a book called Darth Plagueis. You find out that Sidious is, or you know, Palpatine, whatever. He's Plagueis's apprentice, and he's trained Maul, who he shouldn't be training, because you know, obviously, you're meant to kill your master, take his place, rule of 2. So basically, as the Phantom Menace is actually going on, if that book was still canon, it would actually mean at some points in that film there would have been 3 of them. It's only later on that Palpatine kills Plagueis in the book, and then it's just him and Maul. But the thing is, you still could have had Maul stick around to at least the end of episode 2.
What about Count Dooku though? Who is he?
Right. So hang on. Right. So since that we're moving into the next film, right?
Yeah.
I think the reason he killed Maul was because he had other plans for episode 2 and 3, but he didn't go ahead with them because of the backlash they got over Jar Jar. There's a theory that there was going to be Darth Jar Jar, and I happen to think there's a lot of weight behind that, because if you watch The Phantom Menace, you see Jar Jar mimicking what people are saying, almost like he's mind controlling them. I think his plan was to have Jar Jar actually be, because if you watch him fight, he fights like a drunken master at the end of that film.
Yes,
like he does some acrobatic moves that are like, it looks like he's using the Force,
like a Jedi jump. Yeah, exactly. And that end fight, he makes it look like he's a clumsy idiot, but he's killing everything or beating everything. It's like, is this guy a Sith and he's pretending he's a clown? You know.
How fucking cool would that have been if they followed that through?
It would, but the problem is no one would have watched it because they all hated Jar Jar. That's the problem, isn't it?
I don't get the hate Jar Jar thing, so I really don't.
There's a bit in it's either Attack of the Clones or the Phantom Menace, which is a really bizarre 4th wall break, where they're walking through a corridor. Someone says something to Jar Jar, and he just looks straight at the camera. It's such a weird shot. I had to reverse it and watch it again. But the whole Jar Jar being a Sith Lord or being Darth Jar Jar, Lucas should have followed that through, because he is the one who says to give the
emergency powers
power to emergency powers. Yeah, because when they're talking about it in Palpatine's office, it pans over to Jar Jar, and he's just like, that's a good idea.
Yeah, you're on about a deleted scene, I think, aren't you? But they did cut
it's in the actual film.
Oh, it's not that one I'm thinking of. There's a scene where Palpatine actually tells him everything, and he still gives him emergency powers. Now, I can only imagine that would have worked if he was evil himself, right? So,
yeah. I mean, he's acting all dumb in the Phantom Menace, but they give him this role in the Senate. Jar Jar's a weird character, and I think Lucas was going to go one way, then decided to go another way, and then just messed it up.
Yeah.
When it came to Attack of the Clones, because essentially what they did or what Lucas did in Attack of the Clones with Jar Jar is what J.J. Abrams did with Rose in Rise of Skywalker.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah. Or in
This
a way, he did the same thing with Finn. What Ryan Johnson did
Yeah.
with Finn in The Last Jedi.
This comment that Raz has put, he wasn't really killed off. You're on about Maul because he was
Yeah,
originally
they're
killed off.
talking about Maul because he was obviously in the cartoons or whatever.
Well, he was killed off. He was originally meant to die, but then they realised he was a popular character, so they brought him back in the Clone Wars cartoon. He was never meant to survive. And also, if you want to get technical, he does actually get killed off in a cartoon, and that's Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah,
because he gets beaten by Obi-Wan. And funny enough, he gets beaten with the same move that he used on
Against Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon, yeah. He tries to do the same thing to Obi-Wan, and he beats him. It's a very quick fight. But yeah, Dooku though. So I think Dooku was a rush replacement. I think he had to come up with something fast.
Yeah.
And you know, it was like, oh, well, we'll just put this in there. You know, a Jedi that's got a little bit sort of disillusioned, if you like. And the thing was, I used to actually think Dooku was quite a boring character, but the more stuff they release around him as to his reasons and, you know, what he was all about, it all starts to make a lot more sense. And he's actually a more complicated character than you actually realise. He's actually a lot more interesting than you think he is too. So I originally thought he was boring, but you know,
I don't think he was disillusioned because in the fight at the end of Attack of the Clones between Anakin, Dooku, and then Yoda and Obi-Wan, he's so far advanced in the ways of the Sith.
Yeah,
like he's able to just shoot lightning. Like that's normally reserved for the high-level Sith trainees or lords and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't
but
think
he's not
your
your usual Sith though, and he is disillusioned. That's why he turns to what he does. He leaves the Jedi because of Qui-Gon dying. That's the reason, because they won't listen to him.
Is it? So because Qui-Gon died,
so basically, so Dooku is his character is Qui-Gon's master. He trained him, right?
Yeah.
And for ages, he was fighting against the Jedi, saying, look, we should be doing this and not this and blah, blah, blah. Very similar to Qui-Gon. But because when Qui-Gon got killed, he was basically like, look, see, I told you. And they wouldn't listen. So at that point, he leaves. So he does actually get disillusioned. He thinks the Jedi's lost their way, which, of course, then sends him down the dark side. And he then realizes, well, actually, if I join Palpatine, I kind of get what I want. So I'll do that. His plan basically is he wants things to change how he wants it. So he's going to use Palpatine to get what he wants and then kill Palpatine. That's his whole plan. And it all starts from him getting disillusioned with the Jedi. That's what starts it, when Qui-Gon dies.
Seems a very quick turnaround.
See, I thought that was a masterstroke having Christopher Lee play Dooku.
Yeah.
I thought it was a brilliant cast to have Christopher Lee in it. After Pete and Cushing was in Star Wars, obviously.
Yeah.
To have Christopher Lee as Dooku, I thought was sensational. I thought that was brilliant.
Some of his lines are good though as well. Like that, like in the third film when he says, "My powers have doubled twofold since we last met," and he says, "Good, twice the power, double the fall." Yeah, that's a great line. And only he could deliver it that way as well.
Yeah,
sounds really good.
I love that bit because when you see Yoda, how powerful Yoda actually is, he just absorbs the lightning like like Dooku just blew him a kiss or something. Like it was almost nothing for him to just absorb the lightning, and you don't realize how powerful Yoda actually is until you see him just be like, "Yeah, cheers, mate, thanks."
Well, do you know another funny thing about Dooku as well is technically he's not really a full Sith because he never gets the Sith eyes. If you notice, his eyes are normal. All of the others have got the yellow red. I mean, even Anakin eventually ends up with that, you know. But Dooku,
you
not
could
at
say
all.
he falls in the category of like grey Jedi. I know.
I was going to say, is he a grey Jedi?
Yeah. there was this theory that Qui-Gon was a grey Jedi, and Mace Windu was in that grey area of the Jedi thing, and Dooku seems to, because he's not a full Sith, yet he's not a full Jedi anymore. Does he fall into that grey Jedi category?
In theory, in the old canon, yeah, probably, because he's prepared to use both sides of the Force and do whatever to achieve what he wants. So, yeah, technically, he probably would in the old canon. But as far as new canon, I mean, they screwed it up so bad, you wouldn't really know what he was now, would you? So, yeah. I mean, what Jamie's saying here is a good point. Dooku was used as a pawn, sold out to the real one pulling the strings, yeah.
Yeah.
I forget I think it's a book. You find out that bit where, I know we're jumping ahead, but where he meets his demise, he has a completely different idea of what's going to be happening at that point. And he's got no idea that he's going to get his head chopped off. Like, what he thinks is going to happen and what ends up happening are two completely different things.
You can see genuine shock, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Pete.
That's right. It's what I like about episode 3 at the beginning. Is like Palpatine knows exactly what Dooku is planning.
Yeah.
Which is why he tells Anakin to chop his head off. He's like, do it. And just slices it off. Because he knows that the more tragedy that Anakin causes, the more he'll fall to the dark side. And he knows that Anakin will eventually become like the baddest motherfucker in the galaxy.
It's a big test, isn't it? A normal Jedi wouldn't have done that.
Well, it is, but there's another reason why he does it. He does it to manipulate him too, because if you remember, there's a line in that same film when he says it was perfectly understandable. He cut off your arm. You wanted revenge, right?
Yeah.
And then there's another line at some point in the film where he mentions about how he killed all the Tusken Raiders when his mum died.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, I know stuff on you, mate, and if you don't do what I want, I'll grass you up. That's basically, he's got that over him, hasn't he? He's blackmailing him, basically. So it's all a manipulation, the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, he
manipulates him, doesn't he? He manipulates him to turn to the dark side by telling him that he can save Padme, when in reality he can't. So that's why he agrees to. That's why he basically knights him as Darth Vader, because he will be able to save Padme. And then right at the end of that film, he's like, "Oh yeah, she didn't make it." I was like, "No." It's like, yeah, dude, he screwed you over.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that whole spiel was just sort of threatening, like, I've got information on you. But I think a lot of it was him saying to Anakin that, like, these are examples of times when you've given in to your passion or your feeling, and he's just saying, look, that's fine, and that's a perfectly normal thing for us to do. People give in to their emotions, and that's fine. Whereas the Jedi had been teaching him, no, we do not give in to our emotions. That is the number one thing we don't do. And Palpatine's very much like, no, mate, it's all good. You can go a bit crazy, and like, you can feel a bit of passion, you can feel a bit of this and that, and because he knows that's going to lead him further down that path, which he inevitably does.
He's trying to point out that the Jedi are flawed.
And to get ultimate power, at the end of the day, Anakin wanted power. And sort of like Palpatine led him to believe that you let your emotions take over, take revenge, do what needs necessary, and you will have that power.
Well, that's what Sith crave, though.
Yes.
That's what makes them different.
So does Anakin, doesn't he? He's frustrated because he knows he's the best.
Right, well, we're getting into an interesting territory, because this is something I wanted to ask you guys, right? So, have you noticed that it's a perfect storm what goes on, right? You've got Palpatine manipulating him on one side, right? But if you notice, the real bad guys, I think, if you really look at it, are the Jedi.
They're arrogant. They're not seeing what's actually happening.
Well, there's that, but even worse than that, if you actually look at the way they treat Anakin right from the get-go, like Mace and Yoda are horrible to him.
Yeah.
Like, every time Mace talks to him, he looks down on him. Basically he's saying to him he doesn't want him there.
There's lots of kind of side
Well,
corridor
he's meant to be
discussions as well, where they're trying to
That's
get
right.
him to spy on Palpatine as well. It's very political, just using him as a bit of a pawn.
Have you noticed that Obi-Wan, at every chance he gets, he slaps him down? I mean, at one point, he moans at him about losing his lightsaber in Attack of the Clones. This is your life. How many times does he lose his in Revenge of the Sith? Like, see what I mean? Like, it's like, mate, you're slapping him down and you're doing the same thing. Like, yeah, he gets treated horribly. Like, it's a wonder that he didn't turn sooner. And really, when you look at it, all Anakin wants to do is he wants to belong somewhere, and he's not getting that from them, whereas he thinks he's getting that from Palpatine.
Yeah.
Well, they keep pushing him away. Because they won't let him become a master. They won't let him sit on the council. He hasn't. I don't think he took the trials because he wasn't ready. I know. That's why Obi-Wan became a master, because he took the trials, which is what Qui-Gon said at the end of Phantom Menace, that Obi-Wan was ready to take the Jedi trials. Obi-Wan didn't think that Anakin was ready to take the trials, even though in Clone Wars he had a Padawan, which was Ahsoka. So the only way he could have got a Padawan was if he had become a master. Even though they call him Master Anakin or whatever, Master Skywalker, but they kept putting him off. They kept pushing him away. And then even in the Phantom Menace, because Anakin was born of the Force, he doesn't have a father. So he's fully formed by the Force, which is why he was supposed to be the Chosen One. The Chosen One is someone who was born from the Force, there to lead the Jedi and to bring balance to the Force, blah, 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 which is the whole spiel that Obi-Wan gives him at the end of Revenge of the Sith. But they don't trust him. That's why they won't let him sit on the council. That's why they won't let him become a master. That's probably why they won't let him do the trials, because they know inevitably he's going to change. He's going to turn. And the fact that he came from being a slave child, being taken at an older age, because they started him training at an older age instead of at like 5 or 6, they started training him at 10 years old. It's just this whole...
It's harder to indoctrinate him, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Like if he was younger, it's easier to mold him, get him to switch off his emotion to things, and
So it appears that Anakin as a character has more free will than the general Jedi student or the general Jedi master,
which is where the flaw is.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, like, I think at one point he mentions in one of the films how they're encouraged to love, even though they're not meant to be in love with people. They're encouraged to love.
Yeah, they're not allowed to form attachments.
Yeah, but this is the thing. How can you be encouraged to love if you can't form attachments? That contradicts itself anyway, don't it? I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all very flawed anyway, isn't it? So I don't know.
That's religion for you.
Mm-hmm. So it is the question then, right? Do you think he was the chosen one? Like, in your opinion, was Anakin the chosen one?
Yes.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Well, I say, do you think he was? There's a reason why I'm asking that, but yeah. Ed, what do you think?
I think he was, yeah.
Because I know at one stage, I don't know if you remember this, but shortly after the prequels come out, there was a lot of people debating that it was Luke. I don't know if you remember that. Because they were like, well, Luke was the one who killed him, like, sort of thing. There was a little debate at one stage. But then George come out and said, no, it's Anakin. Like,
Anakin.
Well, the problem is
that Anakin turns back to save his son. So theoretically saves everything.
Yeah.
Because
bringing balance to the Force.
Also, there's the 2 Sith, and essentially in that one act when he picks up Palpatine, that's the end of the Sith. Because Darth Vader becomes Anakin again, and the Emperor's dead. Obviously, now that's all been fucked.
Well, before we get to that, right, the interesting...
royally, isn't they?
Hang on, before we get to that, the interesting thing I always found was what balance means in the eyes of George Lucas, because you could get confused as to what that means. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if you're actually talking about balance, a balance would be light and dark, right? Mm-hmm. So technically it's not really balanced, is it? But you know, that's an oversight.
There is never a balance.
Oh my god! Sorry, guys. Bristol City had just fucking scored against Ipswich.
Oh god! Don't smash your TV.
I don't think I could care less about something, but I'll try, mate. I'll try.
I care more about Ipswich Town than I do Star Wars probably at the moment.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So going from one disaster to another, which is the sequel trilogy, that's a good segue, wasn't it?
That was well done. That was.
As we're talking about balance and chosen ones, well, I mean, you know, Disney managed to screw that up, didn't they? Because apparently that's not Anakin anymore, is it? So, okay, right. So, how many of you were like me, was looking forward to Disney getting older Star Wars and new films coming out? How many of you were looking forward to that?
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone was.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
I thought it was going to be amazing.
Was you still feeling that way when you walked out of The Force Awakens?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
More.
Yeah, the first
Really?
Force Awakens, yeah.
Yeah, mate.
I couldn't stand it.
That's the only film in ages that I actually bought tickets to see 3 times, but something came up and I couldn't go the third time. But I saw it twice in like 2 days, and then I booked a third time. I've absolutely loved it.
I watched it twice, and I'll tell you why. Because when I walked out the first time, I felt like I felt something was missing. So I went to watch it again to see whether it was me or the film. And then I realized, no, it's the film. It's not you, it's the film. It didn't feel like a Star Wars film at all, other than the fact that it completely rehashed A New Hope. Like, I did not like it. I mean,
See, I like that. See, what you got to remember is the backlash of the prequels. There was a lot of people that didn't like the prequel films, and it was kind of Abrams was like, right, let's familiarize ourselves with Star Wars again. Let's do a tribute to A New Hope. And it kind of worked. I really liked The Force Awakens.
I thought it was fully Star Wars. But I was like, this is Star Wars. Oh my God.
Yeah. And the early signs of Rey and Finn and what's his name? Oh,
Poe?
his name's gone.
Poe Dameron?
Poe.
Oh, right, yeah.
I really liked them. I really liked what they were building in The Force Awakens. I was like, this is... Honestly, I was blown away at the cinema by The Force Awakens. There was only one thing I didn't like, and that was the fact that you didn't see Solo, Leia, and Skywalker in a scene together. I thought that was the biggest drawback.
That was one of my problems with it. The fact that they didn't do that before they killed Han off. That was wrong.
But the only thing is Harrison Ford only came back to die.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, didn't you write it in a way that they meet before he dies, didn't you? I mean, it's not ours. But
totally.
The thing is, I'll be honest, I think you give Jar Jar I keep calling him Jar Jar Abrams because that's what I call him. I think you're giving too much credit, though, if I'm honest, because I don't think the reasons he gives us to why he copied A New Hope, I don't think are the reasons. I think he did it because he is a hack. He's not a great... He's not great at writing stories, especially endings to them. He's got a bit of a history of that.
Well, we're gonna hard disagree on this.
Yeah,
because I know exactly what you're referring to. We're gonna hard disagree on this.
I
think he was
what
given
am I
a
referring
massive
to?
You're referring to Lost, right?
Well, that's one of them. Yeah, Lost is one of them.
Lost
yeah.
ending.
But he
Lost
left at the
ending
end of season
is
2.
Incredible, man.
Strongly
The thing is
disagree,
with
but-
Abraham
Like,
and
Abrams-
Force Awakens is he didn't get to show or to do the story he intended to do. You know, he set up Force Awakens and then Ryan Johnson come along and fucked it all. That was the
I
thing.
think a lot of people seem to forget that The Force Awakens was also written by the same man who wrote Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And they put the blame solely on J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, but it was very different, though. Like when I looked at what the original
It was very
story
different
it was very
because
different.
if they don't do it different, it's just
No. What I mean
rehashing
is
the same thing.
the guy you're talking about, when he wrote it very different to what we ended up getting. It got changed.
No, it didn't.
It
was,
did, according to the leaks I saw.
So they had a guy write the script. They fired him because the script was shit. So they brought in Lawrence Kasdan to rewrite the film, which is where they came up with the plot. and it was co-written between J.J. Abrams and Lawrence Kasdan. Kasdan then went on to write Solo, and I think he wrote some of Rogue One, or maybe it might have been Chris Weitz and Tony Gilroy. But Kasdan is very much responsible for the plot and the characters and the dialogue in The Force Awakens. And I think a lot of people always gloss over that. They always put the blame squarely on J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams, he comes up with very good ideas and then lets other people take the reins.
Yeah.
The only film that I can think of that is actually solely his, which is really good, is Super 8. Like Lost, he left at the end of season 2, so that was left to Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof. And Damon Lindelof does not know how to finish a movie. He cannot. All he does is bring up questions, never answers them. Look at Prometheus. Prometheus was originally written by John Spates. That was a film that was called Alien Engineers. Awesome script. What was the other one? Is it Prisoners, where they're Chris Pratt on the spaceship?
Passengers.
That's another really good one that had a fantastic script that the studio interfered in. And then Damon Lindelof comes along. He gets booted from most films because he cannot finish a script in a coherent final way, which is why a lot of people found that the ending of Lost to be all over the shop. I personally love the ending of Lost. I think it's fantastic. And yeah, I think the blame on J.J. Abrams is unfair, and it should also be put onto Lawrence Kasdan as well. But if we're going to go anywhere, Rian Johnson can fuck off.
Well, there's lots of good things with The Force Awakens as well, as they brought a lot of special effects back, practical effects, which the prequels solely relied pretty much on CGI.
Yeah.
And Abrahams was a big push in having the puppets, having people in costume again. And I thought that was what lent massively to the feel of The Force Awakens as well.
I can see Jamie
it was also shot on 35mm as well.
Yes, that as well. Yeah.
Ruin Johnson. That's what I call him, Ruin Johnson. But yeah, I'm. The thing is, I do actually hold Jar Jar as responsible as Ruin Johnson, because it's the same thing you see all the time, mystery box, and things that don't pay off, and he's not good at writing endings. Like,
why would
you
Disney
think
have,
different, but
yeah. But why would Disney have Abrahams do the first one, then Johnson do the second one?
Well, originally it was meant to be a different
Abrams
director
turned down
for
the
all
second
three.
one.
It was meant to be a different director for all three, but the third one, the guy got fired, which is a shame because the idea he had was actually much better. They got rid of was it Trevorrow?
Yeah, Colin Trevorrow.
Colin Trevorrow. They got rid of him, and so that's how comes you ended up with Abrams coming back for the last one. So that's how it comes. I don't know if you heard any of that.
No, I didn't. Ipswich just equalised.
Yeah. So what I was saying was that originally it was meant to be three different directors. Trevorrow got fired.
Right.
And so then they had to get Abrams back to do the last film. It was something to do with a contract because he didn't want to do it, I heard. Probably
he
because
didn't sign on for the second one. They originally asked him to do the second one.
Also, who wants to follow Ruin Johnson anyway? Like,
exactly. He absolutely royally fucked Luke Skywalker's character. He fucked everything. Everything he fucked up. What Abrahams built with Force Awakens, I was interested in these new characters.
Yeah.
As soon as Johnson come in, he ruined them all. Finn, I liked the idea that he was a stormtrooper that then was fighting for the good. And I thought, what a fucking waste of what they done with him in The Last Jedi. And they brought that Rose character in. Now, no one deserves that much hate, but they bring characters in that you just didn't give a fuck about. And they put Finn on this stupid journey that had no relevance to the fucking film. And then they made Luke Skywalker an absolute fucking dick.
I've got a question for you, right? Who did you think Snoke was going to turn out to be? Because I had a theory. Because there was a lot of theories going around, wasn't there? Who did you think Snoke
I
was?
thought it was going to be like a Palpatine clone.
Yes.
I thought he was going to be Plagueis, because in the
Yeah,
book,
right.
basically Plagueis' power, and he even says this in Revenge of the Sith, that his
Yeah.
power was he could stop people from dying, and if you remember, he says, but he couldn't himself, right?
Mm.
What if he did, and he just didn't realize he did, and that's what I always thought was why he had the damage.
He did it, but he had amnesia.
or that he thought,
it's a better story than what we got, isn't it? He had amnesia. Somehow he had amnesia.
Well, the thing is, he could manipulate midichlorians in order to bring people back. So in theory, he probably could have died, appeared dead, and then come back afterwards.
But Snoke should have been, what's his name?
Snoke should have been Plagueis. It would have made sense.
He should have been Plagueis, because that would have made sense.
But they wanted to subvert expectations, which is code for I can't write a fucking story properly. Like, so yeah. Who kills their big bad in the second film of a trilogy? Come on, you got to be a prize dickhead, didn't you? Like, seriously, who does that?
It's a nice set piece as well. That whole scene in isolation.
Oh, beautiful!
In the
it's nice.
throne room.
Yeah,
it looks nice. Choreography's naff.
Part of the plot. It's a bit ballet dance, isn't it? Some of those kung fu kicks.
Yeah,
choreography's
totally
terrible.
Right, cinematography in The Last Jedi is stunning.
In fact, in all of them, it looks nice. You can't argue it looks nice. That's one of the things I'd say it's got going for it. But that fight in the throne room with the Praetorian guards, my God, like I mean, when you watch that, you can see that people are waiting. You can see that people are wildly swinging. That Daisy Ridley isn't ducking at the right time, so the guy's swinging, but having to go higher to miss her because she hasn't ducked yet, and then she ducks a second later. Like, it's terrible. It's terrible choreography.
The problem you got is with the prequels, you had Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen that dedicated so much to the choreography and learning lightsaber duels.
Yeah, they're like actually sword masters, some of them.
Yeah, it's crazy what them two learn. So then when you got the Disney films, there just wasn't that much effort put in.
Well, I mean, I know we're going off on a tangent here, but when they did the Ahsoka series, right, they brought back Hayden Christensen for a part, and he actually shows up. What's her face?
Yes,
because he's still so good. Like he makes her look like a proper mug in that. Like they had to slow him down because he was moving too fast. Like she couldn't keep up with him. Miss, I fold my arms all the time for dramatic effect. Like, you know. But yeah, we're going off on a tangent. But yeah, they trained properly, and there's none of that, is there, in these new ones at all?
No.
It's so frustrating when you think what could have been. Like, you know, when you look at, because one of the things that bugs me the most is, and I'm sure it's Kathleen Kennedy that Tarana said this.
Oh, you've said her name. You've said her name.
Yeah, franchise killer Kennedy. Yeah. So she what did she come out? She said something about how there wasn't any source material, I think. That was what she said. Some stupid comment like that. And I'm like, are you having a laugh? There was like over 20 years of it, and you made it all non-canon. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what they should have done is they should have had the Heir to the Empire storyline for that trilogy. And then if there was going to do another trilogy, then you do the Yuzon Vong. That's what they should have done. But they didn't. They did, oh, look, this is the Empire, but it's not the Empire. And this is the Rebels, but they're not the Rebels. And this is the Death Star, but it's not a Death Star. Like, this is bigger and better. Like, it's just bad, isn't it? It's bad.
Even a lot of the supernatural bits were just so far. I mean, the Luke projection bit on the battle, in the battle, the way that Rey and Kylo Ren almost have fighting each other in different places, and I'm just like,
it was
that's too fucked up. Didn't feel right.
They kind of turned Star Wars into Marvel at that point. That's how I felt. And
like Doctor Strange or something breaking through time.
It
wasn't.
You know, what was going on there though? Was it a love thing? What was it?
Well, Reylo fans wanted that, didn't they? Like, the old Reylo fans, they wanted that to happen, and I suppose it kind of did. But yeah, I mean, they even managed to mess up Kylo. I thought Kylo was actually quite good in the first part of the first film. That bit where he freezes,
bitch, didn't he?
where he freezes the laser bolt, I was like, wow,
Yes.
we haven't seen that
That's
before.
awesome.
And then he has a conversation and it's still there. Yeah.
That crackle.
Yeah. And then, of course, the lightsaber as well, like where it comes out the side. It's like, well, that's interesting.
And I loved
like,
how the lightsaber, I loved how his lightsaber was kind of unstable. Like
yes.
you weren't.
Well, it's because you find out the kyber crystal's damaged. That's why.
Yeah.
It's also because he wasn't a full Jedi and he wasn't a full Sith. He basically built a lightsaber out of scraps.
That's it.
Yeah.
Which is why it is so janky.
Yeah, the crystals
and you can see the wires on the outside.
Yeah, he takes parts, don't he? Because the crystal's cracked, which is why he has to put the exhaust vents that come out the sides, because otherwise it would just explode. So, yeah, they really messed him up. Like I actually thought this is quite compelling. This, and and then it was pretty obvious who he was. But the minute he took his mask off in The Force Awakens, I was like, that's it, I'm out. Like that was it, I was done then.
He should have never revealed himself.
No, shouldn't have showed his face.
That was a big mistake, that was. They should have kept him
ruthless masked. Killer, emo band geek. Like that's what it went from, one to the other. Like
he just become an emo bitch, didn't he, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So one of the design choices I always found really weird is that, like, Luke, we've watched the films where Luke forgives his father for all his wrongdoings. And his father's killed like thousands of people, children. He's committed these horrible crimes. And then his nephew has one bad dream and he's like, I'm going to kill this fool, What the hell?
His lightsaber over him while he's sleeping.
So out of character, isn't it? So out of character. Yeah.
That was the worst scene in Disney Star Wars.
It makes no sense.
I've ever seen.
That's just a fundamental, like, misunderstanding of the source material. And it's like, you're making a film, you obviously don't know the first thing about this character. And I hate being one of those people that like picks apart these films and moans about everything, but like they made some fundamental like stylistic choices like that where it's just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Well, speaking of not making any sense, I mean, like, and we'll get onto the bit at the beginning of The Last Jedi in a minute, but one of the things that got me is the way that people go, oh, I don't understand why no one likes Rey. Well, hang on, I'll give you a list, shall I? Number one, she doesn't get trained, but she seems to be better than everyone else at everything, right?
Yeah.
Number two, nothing bad ever happens to her. Like, if everything is literally just handed
something
to
bad
her.
has happened to her. She don't know who her parents are.
Oh, okay. Yeah. and then there's the fact that she takes the Skywalker name. I mean, the list just goes on and on. It's like you wonder why people hate this character, yet you keep doing these things. Like, what is wrong with you? I mean, they actually come up with an excuse as to how she learns how to fight in The Force Awakens in the books. Apparently she's meant to have downloaded Kylo's mind. That's how she works out how to do the mind control bit to get out of the chair and then how to fight him at the end. That's the story in the book. Yeah.
But you've got the Finn bit again as well, where Finn picks up the lightsaber and you're like, this is the first time you're seeing someone that's not a Jedi, not a Sith, pick up a lightsaber.
Well, not a Jedi yet. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
He's clearly got Force abilities.
Exactly. And it was just Johnson again completely wasted the Finn character. Unbelievable. He should have been the one. Not
Finn had the best intro to a story arc in the Force Awakens. He was a person who was taken from his family as a child, forced to train as a stormtrooper, ended up having a crisis of conscience and decided to escape the First Order. Just so happened he may have some form of Force ability, and they just went right down the shitter with him. And it's the biggest waste of a character in any film.
I mean, it's a great story.
I think that's what
you've never seen a stormtrooper ever like turn their back and defect. You've never seen that. I mean, it's such a wasted opportunity. Like, yeah.
But then
Because
in the
as
Rise
well-
of Skywalker, you got a planet full of fucking stormtrooper
Yeah.
defectors.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah.
sense. It's like quite clever in the way that, you know, you've had 2 Death Stars blow up with presumably a ton of like, you know,
Oh, I know where you're going.
troopers and clones and stuff. And they're going to have to like forcibly conscript people to fight for them after that, which we see with Finn. So it makes sense, like narratively, to have a lot of them be not too happy about it, you know.
Oh, I thought when you started saying about the Death Star, I thought you was going to say about that thing in The Last Jedi, the hyperspace ramming, the Holdo maneuver. I mean, talk about break canon. Like, why bother doing Death Star runs? Like, why bother? Why bother flying through the middle of the second Death Star and nearly getting killed when you could just get a ship, set it to hyperspeed ram? Yeah, like, well, it's like you've just completely fucked everything. You've completely wrecked everything now because now everyone's going to do that. And why wouldn't they have done that before? Like, you know. And then you get that
It's the
little
same with
line.
Space Layer.
Yes, Mary Poppins. Yeah.
Mary Poppins.
But it is Mary Poppins, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
she wakes up and floats in like this, like Mary Poppins. Yeah.
Mary Poppins had like way better force powers, though.
Well, yeah. She could take.
Yeah, she didn't fuck around.
Yeah. Yeah, she actually had a point to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing. They killed bloody Admiral Akbar off screen.
Oh, mate, I was fuming.
So was I. So was I. Yeah.
He was like my favourite character as a kid. Like,
how do you do that though? Like, I can't help but think that when they did that, that was just to slap George Lucas in the face, because I can't think why else you would have done that. Like, he's a major part of Return of the Jedi, and you just kill him off screen. Like,
that was a trap.
Yeah, exactly.
It does seem like a lot of what they did in this trilogy was it was almost like out of spite, it felt at times. I will teach them Star Wars fans, we'll teach George Lucas, we'll
But that's what it
completely
was.
fuck it all. Like, you know,
especially with Johnson, that's what it was. He wanted to fuck over the fans. That's what I thought.
He actually said that.
Yeah.
So there was an interview where he said, we don't care about what they want, it's all about what we want.
Yeah.
So right from the get-go, he was just like, I'm not gonna do fan service. I'm not gonna follow what came previously. I'm gonna do something completely different. And there are moments in The Last Jedi that are good compared to the 95% of Last Jedi, which is awful. It's a slap in the face to people who love the franchise, grew up with the franchise, and want to see it go to places that it hadn't been before, which is what The Last Jedi could have been. Force Awakens was, it followed familiar ground. It followed the same sort of narrative as A New Hope, but it set up the ending to lead into something that could have gone completely different, but also kept it in continuity and in character wise correct. And it just went straight out the window with The Last Jedi. Like, we don't want to see Luke just throw his lightsaber, go on.
We all wanted to see Luke like God level Luke, didn't we? That's what we wanted to see.
Yeah.
And a new Jedi Order, right? And
we wanted to see what we got at the end of Mando season 2.
or that, yeah. But I mean, what they've done is they've robbed him of that, and now in this new film, they're basically giving that to Rey now, aren't they? They're doubling down with that new Rey story. She's going to be the one who's got a Jedi Academy. She's now Luke, basically. Like, you know.
Well, Disney did the same thing to Luke as they did to Indiana Jones in the last one.
Yeah.
Where they made him this sad old recluse. And that's not Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker.
I didn't mind that. I didn't mind what they done with Luke, but he needed to come back and be the badass that we all wanted to see. Yeah.
Now, this comment.
But that's a good thing about the end of that film is the face-off between Kylo and Luke. Yes, Luke wasn't technically there with the Force projection, but that was badass Luke.
Yeah.
He just showed up, black suited, lightsaber,
The thing
It's a
is,
great
though,
scene.
is you
Great
reckon they
scene.
thought that why they had it as like a forced projection is if Luke was there and was a badass, he'd have just took them all out.
Yeah,
This
that's
is
what we
where the
wanted.
story was so weak. Where the story was so weak is all they need to do was get Luke back on track, get him on board, and he'd have fucked them all up. And because
Yeah.
they were like, how do we get over this?
Yeah, but there is a way they could have done it. The way they could have done it is that he comes back, he trains Rey,
Yes.
and then he does end up dead. No one would have had a problem with that.
No.
But the problem was he weren't a hero, was he? He was a whinging bitch. That's what everyone had a problem with, you know. But Disney don't get that. That's the thing.
I really have.
He had an X-wing there. The X-wing was there. He could have just jumped in it.
When you see
the
when you
planet.
see that X-wing, you're like When I went to the cinema and see that, you see the X-wing under the water. I thought he's going to fucking jump in that. He's going to save the day at the end of the film.
And what does he do?
Led there, baiting you.
Yeah, he comes back as a Force ghost and gives it to fucking Rey.
Well, Rey gets everything. Didn't you know that? But this comment here, what Gibbs saying, right now, this is very relevant. What do you think of the Cal Kestis story? I hate it, and I'll tell you why. Because Disney keeps bringing back more and more Jedis. I mean, every time they release a game or a series, you find out it's another Jedi that survived Order 66. I mean, at this point, did the Jedi get wiped out? The answer is no.
True.
Like, if you watch Obi-Wan, you find out that that Voss has been sneaking people out for years. You see crates of lightsabers. It's like, so at this point, are any of them actually dead? Because it doesn't feel like it. Like, I thought it was called The Purge, not the Let Go. Like, you know. Yeah, so I have a massive issue with that story.
I love the Survivor games, the Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order. I think they're fantastic games. I love the lore behind it as well. And I love the fact that he was a very young child during Order 66 and managed to get out. But again, I kind of agree that there are other Jedis like Sia, which is the main person on the ship with you in the game, is a Jedi Master who cut herself off from the Force. The main bad guy of the Inquisitors, the female, was a former Jedi who cut herself off from the Force, turned to the dark side. It does make you think, well, did they only kill the Jedi that were in the movie? Because there seems to be a universe spread with Jedis or Jedis that have.
Well, this is the thing. Obi-Wan turns himself off from the Force in order to survive. So why would he be the only Jedi to do that?
Well, Luke does it in the sequel trilogy as well.
Yeah. So there would be, no.
But going back to what you're saying about him being a Padawan, I don't know if you watched Star Wars Rebels, the cartoon, but Cal Kestis isn't even the first one that was a Padawan that survived. Your main character, or one of your main characters in Rebels, was actually a former Padawan, Kanan Jarrus.
Yeah.
So,
and Grogu.
Grogu as well. I mean, that's what I mean. The list goes on, doesn't it? You know, and also the people he's fighting against, the Inquisitors, they're all ex-Jedis as well.
Yeah.
The Grand Inquisitor is an ex-Temple Guard. So, it's just, you know, at this point, it's like I say, it's a case of, did any of them actually die then? Like, and
that's what I say. Is it the only ones that were killed on screen in Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah, and if you're female, you know, even if you're a Padawan and you're female, if you get run through, you survive. You know, I mean, a lightsaber now is pretty much a joke now, isn't it?
Oh, Disney have turned the lightsaber into the most laughable weapon ever.
Yeah,
they didn't get it. It's like sausage samurai sword these days.
Yeah. So
you just say that this referee in this game, I'm thinking, is worse than Ryan Johnson. He's a fucking cunt.
Well, he must be bad. So we've avoided the elephant in the room, and that's that obviously Disney managed to completely fuck up the prophecy of the chosen one, because obviously now it's not Anakin, because he didn't end the Sith, because somehow Palpatine is back. That's the line you get. That explains it all. Somehow Palpatine is back. We won't tell you how. We just say somehow.
Somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
He's cloned himself somehow.
But I mean, it's completely undone Anakin's story, isn't it? Like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I was really annoyed about that.
Was it even hinted upon in The Last Jedi? Was it literally when Rise of Skywalker starts and the crawler goes up again and it mentions Palpatine? Is that the first?
No, so this is even worse. The reality behind this is even worse. That when they announced that Palpatine's back was in Fortnite or something, and it was like, no, yeah, for real, right? Yeah. This is how aimed at kids it was. So it was some. I don't play Fortnite. I don't really understand.
My boy did, and you're right.
They did like an event, didn't they? Yeah. And then they're like, "Oh, hey, Palpatine's back! Surprise, bitch! You're gonna hate this film, woo!" kind of thing. And like, yeah, I am gonna hate this film. Fuck me.
Kids probably wouldn't have cared, though, would they? Like, who the hell's Palpatine?
They don't give a shit. They don't know. And that, for me, like, as soon as they say Palpatine's back, I'm like, I pretty much I switch off from what's happening on the film. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to pay attention to what's happening now because my brain's so confused.
Well, what's even worse is like when you first see him, it's like, hang on, what's happened to him? He didn't look like that last time we saw him. What's going on here? He's blind and he's not all wrinkled up and he looks like
he's
a
still
normal
growing
person.
again because he's a clone.
Like a shitty clone, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah, he's a shit clone.
You know, he's on like a bit of a tripod at one stage, isn't he? He's being carried across the.
And then later
on,
when you
the pyramid, it's all strange.
When you actually see full power, you know, like at that point, then it's like, oh, we're going to make him a bitch now because he's going to say, I'm all the Sith, and she's going to say, I'm all the Jedi, and all she does is cross two lightsabers, and that kills him. Like, seriously, who's writing this shit? Like, you know, really?
I was actually J.J. Abrams.
Guilty as charged.
Oh my god! It's just so bad, isn't it? You know. Oh, just think, all he had to do was stop firing lightning. That's all he had to do, and he would have survived.
I remember, like, you know, that like the bit at the end. I was watching it with the missus, and I was thinking it in my head the whole time, and afterwards she told me she was as well. But we're both thinking, "Do not kiss, do not kiss."
Oh yeah,
because that'd just be ridiculous if you kiss, and then they kiss, and it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
like that's so predictably cringe.
That was to keep the Reylo fans happy, wasn't it?
I cannot believe they did that.
Well, technically, Rey is his sort of step aunt.
That does make it hot. Yeah,
it's very confusing.
Makes it spicy.
I mean, that was a rubbish storyline, though, as well, wouldn't it? I mean, like, you know, so she's the daughter of a failed clone of Palpatine. It's like, my God, who's writing this shit? Like, why?
I don't think she was.
But is she not? She's the daughter of real Palpatine, right? And the granddaughter of real Palpatine. It's not. He's not the clone.
She's a granddaughter of the real Palpatine, but she is a daughter of the failed clone of Palpatine. Her dad is a failed.
Oh yeah.
I see.
So she's
refuses to follow the
daughter and granddaughter at the same time, which is very confusing.
Yeah.
Do you think they cloned Palpatine? Do they all look identical? And why did no one? He looks slightly familiar. This person looks like someone else.
Who knows at this point?
Crazy.
But that's what they should have kept from The Last Jedi, was the fact that Kylo told her that her parents were nothing. They were just junk traders on the planet, which meant she wasn't anything special.
Yeah.
Which works more in the favor for the character, being like super overpowered Wonder Woman of Star Wars universe, to being the descendant of the entire saga's main antagonist. It's bollocks writing, and it makes no sense. And like you said, that throwaway line that Poe says, somehow Palpatine has returned, but with no explanation as to how he's managed to build an army with like thousands of huge Star Destroyers, and no one else in the universe has gone, that's a bit suspect.
Do you know the other good bit? They don't know how to go up as well. Don't forget that part.
Yeah.
I can't believe they put that in as a plot line. That
He should have looked at the camera when he said Palpatine returned and then said like hashtag Fortnite, and then
Yeah.
we would have all understood, much better.
It would
mean,
have
what
worked.
is-
It would have worked better if it was like a silly Family Guy throwaway joke. That's all
Yeah.
it is. I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
felt like it was written by the Family Guy writing stuff because it was rubbish. It didn't make any sense, and it was like they were just pulling things out of a hat to put a plot together.
we don't know what
Like
way's
they
up, so
introduced.
we need to follow a signal. And my answer to that would be look out the fucking window. Like that's how hard it is.
It's like-
Just look out our window.
It opens on Mustafar. It opens on Mustafar with Kylo Ren slicing down trees and people to find
Ugh.
this Wayfinder. Then there's light speed skipping, which has never, ever been done before. If there was light speed skipping, why didn't Han Solo do that during the Castle Run?
Oh, that's stupid. That is like
Yeah.
it just makes no sense at all. That
It doesn't. It's wormhole jumping. That's all it is. But they're jumping into ridiculous planets and stuff. Then there's the whole thing with the spy, and the spy being Huck or Hux, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah.
Which again, like he was in the Force Awakens. That Hux was Hitler. He was Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was full on Nazi,
then- Yeah, and then by the Rise of Skywalker, he's comedy sidekick.
Yeah. He is. He's-
it's like they went
slapstick,
from
which is
real
right.
Hitler to a lower low. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, what? Yeah, basically. Yeah. When he lands on his face and then he drags him along the floor, like yeah.
But then
Oh.
also changing Kylo from, and again, I'm going to say this because in The Last Jedi it works. The fact that he is very evil in the end of The Last Jedi. He wants Luke Skywalker dead. That's why he's like, everything we got, fire at him. Like, and he throws Hux to the side with using the Force, and he's just plain almost straight dark side at that point. And then it all goes out the window because he killed his dad, and he's now sad, and now he's sad that his mum's passed away as well, and which is fair. Everyone would be sad, but like he is trying to emulate Darth Vader, but he doesn't know Darth Vader because he never met the man, so he doesn't know how evil he actually was. This is in Kenobi when you see him walking. I know Kenobi was shit. We all know Kenobi was shit. But when he's walking through that village, when he's walking through the village, just snapping necks and stuff. That's how you want to see Vader. That is how you want to see like the last like 5 minutes of Rogue One, which leads into the opening of A New Hope.
Yeah, that's good.
Where he's just like
Yeah.
slamming people up against
amazing.
ceilings and stabbing people. And he's trying to do that, but because he only has the myths of Vader to go on, he just ends up going exactly the same way that Vader did at the end of Return of the Jedi, where he embraced the light and ultimately paid the price for it. But then they've also introduced force healing.
Oh, that was the biggest no. That
Yeah, what the fuck?
then
was
you
all
make
that?
every death just ridiculous. It's cheapened it.
Yeah.
You know, it's now like, oh, no one dies because Ray just heals him again. Like, you know, it's Oh,
And they've got this force connection that doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
where she's able to pass a lightsaber through
God,
nothing
that
for
bit,
him to just
honestly,
pull it out. And it's
That-
like,
that whole
doesn't
bit-
make
Did you notice the part where he puts the lightsaber up his back as a Knight of Ren goes to slash him? And he literally
Yeah.
puts it up his back for at least 2 seconds. The guy could have easily gone, oh, he's got a lightsaber there. I won't aim for there then. And he still aims there. Like, next time you watch it, well, this is if you ever want to watch it, but if you do, just watch how long that lightsaber's there for before the guy swings at him. Like, he didn't have to hit him. He knew it was there. Fucking dumb.
And when she calls on all the voices of the Jedi, and you hear like Mace Windu, you hear Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and you hear two Obi-Wans. You hear Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan, and you hear Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, and they're like, "You can do it, Ray." Blah 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 blah. It's it's so annoying because she didn't exist when these people were around. She
Yeah.
doesn't have that knowledge of Jedi. She doesn't know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is. She only knows of Han Solo through tales and stories from junk traders on Jakku. So
Yeah, but does
it's
she
just
have
the
to know
whole-
who they are for it to be relevant?
I guess not. It's through the Force, isn't it? So
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
But I'll tell you
I
something we
don't know, I
have
just think the
overlooked.
writing's so bad.
One
Well,
of the things
agreed.
we did overlook was the beginning of The Last Jedi. Remember the part with the slapstick humor at the beginning with the jokes?
Yeah, that was
I don't want to know
terrible.
about the your mama joke.
That was
Yeah,
terrible.
I mean,
A
come
mama
on, like
joke.
when I was watching it, I seriously was sitting there and I had both my boys next to me, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? He's just done a mama joke in a Star Wars film. What?
What is the joke?
He says something about it's a call for your mum or something like that. He says, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something along them lines. I mean, I've only ever watched the film once. I have no wish
Yeah,
to
same. I don't.
torture myself further. So
Yeah.
He did a
I think-
prank phone call on Hux.
yeah,
It's just you
What?
don't open a Star Wars movie with a prank call.
yeah. He said something like, he said, "Hello, it's a call for your mum" or something like that. He says, and then when Hux actually does answer it, then he starts dicking with him like he can't hear him and
Yeah.
stuff. It's really sad. Like same as the whole lightsaber bit. That was the next bit when he just. I was like, what on earth are you doing? Like, oh, you know, at that point, it's like, I would get up and walk out, but I actually want to see how bad this car crash is. Like, you know, it was more
That
out of
wasn't a good
intrigue.
start to the film, was it? I remember sitting
No.
there thinking, what the fuck?
Yeah. And then they rewrite it with a line in The Rise of Skywalker where Luke catches the lightsaber when Rey throws it as a Force ghost and says, "A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect." And it's like, I get what you're doing there. You're trying to fix a problem from the last one, but it just doesn't work now. It's too late. Like, you know, oh God, so bad. I mean, it's not even talking about the knife with the
Yeah,
Death
that makes
Star.
no sense.
That's the
Makes
Goonie
no
night. It's the
sense.
Goonies. It's the Goonies.
Yeah, it's the Goonies. Yeah,
It's the Goonies. It matches up like
Yeah.
the rocks.
the bloom.
I'm
yeah, with
surprised
the
she
rock.
didn't. And she found essentially what is a treasure map.
Oh,
in
and
the
that's the
room.
other bit. The chamber she goes in, right, at the side of the throne room. Where was that chamber in Return of the Jedi? Do any of you remember that? Of course you don't, because it wasn't there. Like,
It didn't exist.
it was that was a room on the top of a spire. There was no rooms on the side. Like,
That bit next to the throne, in Return of the Jedi, is a wall of pipes.
yeah.
There's no door there. It's just a wall of pipes because you can see it when they're having the battle.
Oh, it's so bad. I mean,
Do you
even
think,
that's
like,
supposed
do
to
you
be-
think the
that's supposed to be
badness of the
Endor.
last three, the badness of the last three made the first three far better than they were? Do you think?
oh,
that-
it definitely
Probably.
improved the prequel.
and I don't think you can plot it. It's a bit of a geeky thing, but I almost wonder, like the IMDb, if you look at to those original ones, perhaps go higher. You know, once 7, 8, and 9 had come out, when people were like, do you know what? They're actually quite good. Some parts were better than we thought.
Yeah, they the thing is, I mean, I liked the prequels anyway, right? I understood like George Lucas what he was trying to do, so I always liked them. But I have heard a lot of people turn around going, "Wow, I thought the prequels are bad." You know, you do hear a lot of people say it, and they now do look at it and go, "Actually, these films weren't really that bad compared to what we've just got." You know?
Yeah.
So I do think people look at them more fondly now, without a doubt. I mean, we ain't even got into
One thing that works in the prequel's favor. Sorry,
Go on.
carry on.
No,
I
go
was
on.
going to
Go
say
on.
the one thing that works in the prequel's favor is that it's feels like Star Wars. It feels like a
Yes.
George Lucas production, whereas the
Yeah.
prequels, not the prequels, the sequels, they don't. They feel
Yeah.
like mass-produced studio films. There's not really that much care put into it. Whereas even though the prequels have flaws in them, the dialogue can be quite bad, and the plot is at some point quite confusing. It still feels like Star Wars. It looks like Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars. It has the same sort of editing style with the wipes. I know there's the same sort of editing style in the sequels, even down to the music. And apart from Ray's theme, there's not really any other piece of music from the Disney sequels from John Williams that I can even think of. Whereas you think of the prequels, you think of
Agreed.
Duel of Fates, you think of Across the Stars from Attack of the Clones. There's the Mustafar battle at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Then you've obviously got the original trilogy with the plethora of fantastic pieces of music from John Williams. But then you get to the sequels, and apart from Ray's theme, is there any other piece of music that really stands out?
I agree. Yeah, it's like he phoned it in on that trilogy. It's like he didn't really, because he was coming up for retirement, wasn't he? It does seem like he was kind of like, oh, this will do. You know, yeah, you're right. There isn't anything really memorable other than Ray's theme. You're right. Yeah,
Guys, I'm gonna have to love you and leave you, I'm afraid.
Pete.
Much as I'd love to discuss Rogue One and stuff, which we haven't done, which I love, but yeah. Sorry. Thanks so much for having me on.
Cheers, mate.
Lovely to see you all. Pleasure to meet you, Pete.
Pleasure to meet you.
And yeah, thank you so much for a good night. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
See you soon.
See you later.
Coming on.
See ya.
So, and then there was 4. But this
Sorry
comment
for that outburst, by the way. Ipswich just won.
Yeah, I guess that.
Oh, really?
You know what? I was hoping for a non-intensive 1-0, 2-0 win, but that was a thriller, end-to-end 3-2. So sorry for my emotions.
That's all right. Don't worry. This comment here I got addressed because this is the worst line ever, because this is when you know the people writing it have got no idea about Star Wars lore, because they were flying like a long time before that film. Like Rebels cartoon, there are literally stormtroopers with jetpacks. They were in the comics. They were in loads of different like media, including some of the games. Now, admittedly, some of them games might not be canon now, but I mean, you even had jetpack clone troopers. I just don't get it. Like, why is it in The Rise of Skywalker? They fly now. It's like, really? Like,
yeah, I think that's new. Because Finn and Poe had never seen. Because we're talking Galactic Empire. This is First Order. This is what's they've been stealing kids to become stormtroopers. So Finn and Poe have never seen flying, essentially stormtroopers before, because it's 35 years after the original trilogy.
You telling me that no one's used a jetpack in that time? Someone must have, surely.
They may have done, but no, they wouldn't necessarily know. I guess they haven't seen it through their eyes and their experience, perhaps. But
I'll be honest. I think you're giving the writing a lot more credit than it actually deserves, because you're actually thinking of an answer to this. I think they just didn't know the previous canon, if I'm honest, and they just screwed up, didn't they? But I mean, you do make good points, but I do think that
it'd be crazy if they didn't have people that almost got the red pen out and went through and said, "Well, they must have had like teams of." If they didn't, then that's crazy.
Well, they've got a so-called story group, haven't they? But it doesn't seem like they actually do anything. So
it feels like a first draft movie.
Yeah,
like they filmed it off a first draft script and then just went, yeah, that'll do.
Yeah. Before we carry on, Ed, are you all right for a little bit longer?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good. Okay. You all right, Pete? Pedro? Pete? I can call you Pete now because he's gone now.
You can.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm fine. I'm fine.
But I think, we've got to talk about the spin-offs. Which one should we? Let's go with Rogue One first because that came out first, didn't it? So thoughts on Rogue One, Scott?
Awesome film. Really good.
Ed?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Pete?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's the best Star Wars film that Disney have put out.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. The funny thing with that film is it was, I know that other people come in and had to interfere in the end because a few things went wrong at the start, but it was done by fan or by a fan, wasn't it? Like people that actually understood Star Wars, and you can really tell when you watch that film, it slots into that space almost perfectly. I say almost because there are a couple of things, but I mean, it pretty much sorts in there okay. I think it's a good film, and this is the other thing, right? You keep hearing from Disney how the problem is that all us blokes are sexist. Well, then why is it us same blokes like Rogue One then? Answer that for me, because that's a female lead, right? That argument doesn't work, does it? You know,
We don't like female leads who are overly powerful, whereas Jyn Erso she's just a normal person thrust into a situation. She's not an uber Jedi. She doesn't have the power over the Sith and the Jedi. She doesn't know how to pilot the fucking Millennium Falcon with her eyes closed and stuff. Jyn Erso is a good, well-written, well-rounded character, whereas Rey isn't.
And she's got flaws.
Yes.
Kathleen Kennedy's agenda. She does.
Put gender aside, it's character, isn't it? And I'm sorry, these female characters that they're building and creating, no one fucking likes. I don't think females like them neither.
No, they don't. They don't.
There's no role model there, is there? It's just a make-believe load of bullshit. Whereas Rogue One, she is brilliant in that film. And like we said, she's got as many weaknesses as she has anything else, and she's a normal person.
Well, a lot of actors are now complaining about the strong female character because, you know, this current iteration, they're like, well, what am I supposed to do with that character? I can't work with that, you know. And it's right. Like, if you don't write a character that's compelling and that struggles, that's flawed, how are you going to act that? You know, how are you going to make people like that character? And I mean, Jyn Erso is a very flawed character. But by the end of it, when you see what she achieves, it's like, that's amazing. And that's really what they should have done with Rey.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really good character. And I mean, let's not forget, it explains away one of the biggest plot holes in Star Wars. So, you know, it's a pretty well-rounded film when you look at it. Yeah. What do you think, Ed? I mean, like, are you a fan of the Jyn Erso character? And
yeah, I mean, as a movie, I do think it's fantastic. It kind of complements the original Star Wars as we know it. Some of the themes, I think some of the relationships between the characters probably done far better than most other Star Wars films. Yeah, the proper, like, you know, the crescendo and the end with the beach with Andor, with Cassian. Yeah. It's a beautiful film. It's an isolated film. You pick that up, and you think that's fantastic. Yeah. But it's part of the the broader kind of the broader series. It's tremendous.
Do you know what I thought was
the bonus at the end? Obviously, leading straight into episode 4.
Yeah, almost flawlessly as well. Yeah. What I found interesting about the character writing in that was they actually got you to even care about a robot that you've only just met.
Yeah.
Like, that's sad. When he gets shot down, you feel bad for him. And he's a robot. You know, that's good writing. You actually care. I cared more about that robot than I did Rey. Like, you know, and he's a piece of metal. Like, it's hilarious, really, when you think about it. But so
and kind of solid acting. A lot, you know, a few fairly unknown actors as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Pete, what did you think? Was you a fan of Jyn Erso and the way that they did it?
Yeah. There are character traits that she had that I wasn't overly fussed on, and I think they massively underused Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
But other than that, it does explain a lot. It does explain as to why there was a weak point in the Death Star. It explains how they managed to get the Death Star plans, because in A New Hope, all they say is, we've managed to get Death Star plans. Many people died trying to get these, which they show at the end. It's not a happy ending movie.
No.
And I think the best thing about Rogue One is that it gave us Andor.
Yes.
And I think Andor is where Star Wars should be as a franchise now.
Yep, I agree.
I think it should stick with that. It's done the kiddie stuff. it should not. It doesn't have to stay violent and sort of 15 rated. It can still be for teens and stuff, but needs to be a little bit more character driven than plot driven, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I thought Andor was fantastic. Yes,
It's quite
slow,
good, yeah.
but that's what I wanted. I wanted something different with Star Wars. It was a bit like with The Mandalorian, how that started was great. It was like a spaghetti western.
Yes.
And the first season was fantastic. And like what they done with Andor is more like a thriller, like an espionage thriller, and gritty, and it was character driven, and it was slow paced. And that's where they've got it right with these Disney TV shows.
Yeah, I mean, I think Andor, other than the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, Andor's probably the only series that I've actually quite liked. And that's, again, because I think whoever it was who wrote that clearly knew their stuff, you know?
And again, it goes back to you care for the people in it. The problem is with Disney is you don't care for anyone. I don't give a fuck about Rey. I don't give a fuck about any of them. And I don't give a fuck about anyone in probably anything they've done since. But apart from Andor and how they build the characters. And you know, lots of people didn't like Andor because it was slow burn. But I thought that really suited the
it's character
But I
building,
think-
isn't it?
I also think Andor. Also think Andor dealt with the same sort of political stuff that Lucas dealt with in the Phantom Menace, but dealt with it in a much more concise and easier way to follow than the prequels actually did, because the prequels can be very confusing.
Yeah.
But Andor, it shows you there are people trying to start a revolution, and then you've got the fascist party that are trying to prevent everything. I just think Star Wars needs the writing.
Yeah.
And Andor had that writing.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I was really impressed with was, and I forget his name now, the older guy. What's his name? His character name? You know which one I'm on about?
I know who you mean.
He's Lucian.
Yeah.
Lucian?
Yeah.
Yes.
Lucian, I'm sure that's his name. Yeah.
That
ship he's got, when he turns on what looks like lightsabers that come out. Oh shit, I just hit the mic. He's got like lightsabers that come out the wings.
Yeah.
And he carves out them 2 ships as he's flying towards them. I thought that's different. I ain't seen that before. I actually thought that was quite good, you know? Again,
There's a really good theory that he's a former Jedi.
Yeah.
Because of his stick that he carries.
Yeah, he does.
It looks
like a lightsaber hilt almost. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been modified to a stick. And that would explain the like laser beam, the lightsabers on the side of the ship, and how he's able to infiltrate different sections and stuff, and how he meets like Saw Gerrera, and it's very in depth. But then again, that's because of the writing.
I actually have another theory, but I don't know. It might be a bit of a stretch, right? But in the old Old Republic books and that, right? The reason the Ruler 2 come around was because the Sith used to fight each other, right? I actually wonder if Lucian is actually a Sith. If you notice, for starters, the blades that come out of the ship are red. That's the first sort of sign. But the other signs is that they crave power. So there's no reason why they wouldn't go against each other. So starting the rebellion against another Sith, that's not unheard of, right? But on top of that, if you look in his room where all the collector stuff is, there's Sith armor in the background behind him in a few of the shots. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually think he might be a Sith. I mean,
that's the point, because to date there hasn't been really any evidence of the Force or Jedi's, or it's been very plain in that regard, isn't it?
Yeah. That would be a good storyline. Imagine you find out that there was another Sith like running around.
Is there going to be?
And he was the one who started the rebellion.
Yeah, I think so. It's the season 2, isn't there?
They are
Yes,
doing a
yeah,
season
season
two,
two, yeah.
Randall.
But
I
they're
think they
time
filmed it.
jumping. They're time jumping in it though. You can have like 3 episodes, I think. Then it jumps a year or 2, then another 3, and it's going to do
Yeah.
that until
Because
it
it
brings
done
it up.
really poor for Disney, didn't it? It got poor views, and I was a bit worried that they weren't going to do a sequel.
Well, they'd already greenlit it, so I think they kind of had to do it. But the problem is that people have been so pissed off because of what they've done with Star Wars. It didn't matter if it was good or not. No one wanted to
Good or
watch
bad.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. No one tuned in because they got fed up with being bashed. You know, like. And as we're talking about being bashed, I suppose we have to point out the other film that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's Solo. I mean, that's a film that no one asked for, and probably no one should have got. So, don't get me wrong, it's not all bad, and I personally think that Ron Howard, he did miracles to really get that film finished when you consider the mess it was in before he joined. It could have been a lot worse, but then I suppose it could have been a lot better as well. I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts on this?
Do you know what? You watch Solo back now, and it's not a bad film. But like what you said, we didn't need a Solo film. We didn't need to know any more about Han Solo. No one wanted it. But the actual story, what's in the film, I think is quite good. I don't really like the actor they chose to play Han Solo. I just don't think he fitted at all. So that was the biggest gripe for me with the film. But the actual story, I kind of liked. But it just wasn't needed. With all what you've got out there, they could have made a film on anything other than Han Solo. No one wanted a Han Solo film. You could have made a film on anything else. Do a Lando Calrissian film. Let's know more about him. But we knew about Han. Did we need to know any more?
Well, there's literally a reference in the film that tells you the film's pointless when they actually you find out why he's called Han Solo, and he's like, "Your name? Who's your people?" And he's like, "I don't have no one." He's like, "Oh, Han Solo," and it's like, "Did we really need that? Same as did we actually need this film?" Like, you know, you just pointed out just with that one line that this film is pointless. We don't need it. Like, yeah, it's really bad, bad writing. I did like the bit at the end with Maul appearing though.
Yes, I liked that. I liked how he met Chewie.
Which is funny enough what Jamie said here. I didn't notice that as I put that up.
You know, there's things in Solo that I didn't mind. I liked, you know, if I'm intrigued with anything, how did Han meet Chewie? Why were they so close? I kind of like that. The Darth Maul at the end. And do you know what? I really liked Woody Harrelson's character.
Yeah.
But I really like him as an actor, so it might be me being a bit biased there.
Well, the end of the film when you see Maul, that was actually setting up to do a follow-on from that film, because at that point he's part of what's the name of the group that they're talking about in that film all the time?
Gangster thing, wasn't
Crimson, is it Crimson Sun?
Crimson something.
Yeah.
Crimson Sun,
Dawn,
maybe? Crimson Dawn, that's it. I think that's it, Crimson Dawn. So Maul is the one leading that. So he's the kingpin, if you like. Obviously, we know at some point he gets ditched in a cave in Rebels later on. But up until that point, he's a gangster. And that was what was going to happen in the next film, which would have been quite interesting. But unfortunately, we'll never know. So I don't know. What did you guys think of the bad guy in that, though? I thought he was terrible, personally.
Paul Bettany character. Not very memorable.
No. Yeah, it was Paul Bettany, and no, he's not very memorable. You're right. The only thing I remember is that he gets his funny red lines on his face when he gets mad. But what was that all about? And that
I think I've only seen it once, I'll be honest. That's like, probably like you guys, I don't have much spare time. When you're looking at, okay, what film am I going to watch? It's the one I'd never go near. Some of them, the prequels out of maybe curiosity, I've started to dig them out. They've been on telly a fair bit, but the Solo story, it's just like, how did that move anything forward? I don't even know if I got it on DVD, to be honest. I don't think I do.
The other thing that I found funny was the woman on the bike, something nest, in it, Infus Nest, right? She ends up being that woman with the ginger hair that Disney seems to keep shoving into everything at the moment. Like, she's literally, I don't know why, she's a terrible actor, but they keep putting her in everything. She was in the.
I noticed that.
Yeah, she's in the Captain
She's
America TV series.
And Willow.
And Willow, all things that were terrible. Like, they keep bugging her
Like
in
an
stuff.
albatross of doom
Yeah.
for Disney.
Oh, God. So
I know
only
what
things
Jane
that
is
are failing.
For an upcoming film, we do need a film on the Sith. I agree with Jamie.
Well, it would be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, because like I was saying, you know, you find out in the books in the Old Republic, they used to fight each other. So you could start it along them lines, you know, where they're literally fighting with each other. That would make an interesting story. I mean, you could even have that lead into like a Darth Bane type character where he then creates the rule of two, which is basically what happened in the books because of what all the warring, the inside fighting. You find out the reason that he comes up with that is so that way, not only can they hide and do things behind the scenes without getting wiped out constantly, they also then don't fight each other, but also it means that they're at the height of their power because every time a Sith kills another Sith, he becomes more powerful than the one before him.
Yeah.
That's the fault behind it in the books. If you did that as a film, that'd be a pretty good film, I think.
Yeah, but that's the plot of Highlander.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I suppose so. Kind of is, yeah. Yeah. And
Or the Jet Li film, The One.
Yeah. I mean, when I say they get more powerful, I mean, it's not always in a physical way. Sometimes it's in a way like, you know, where they've gained more power, like in the world they're in or through teachings, etc., you know, bettering themselves. So I'm very aware of time, so I'm not going to go much longer, but I suppose we should like broadly cover a little bit of the TV series. I know we've touched on them, but I mean, did any of you watch the animations?
No.
Ed?
I started to watch a bit of Rebels.
Rebels isn't too bad. Yeah, Rebels isn't
I've only been
too
watching
bad.
that because people have been kind of not raving about it, but saying it's a good one.
Well, you kind of also, if you've watched Ahsoka, like I did, just to see how bad it would be, and by the way, terrible. If you haven't watched Rebels, you wouldn't have had a clue who any of them characters are, or even how Ahsoka's there, because it's all explained in Rebels. So, yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, watching Ahsoka, I was a bit confused in who was who.
Well, the thing is, George Lucas always said that every Jedi that was around during the Purge died. That was what he said. Dave Filoni's clearly gone, well, I don't want to do that, so I'm changing that. Ahsoka was supposed to be dead. She wasn't meant to be alive at this point. So, yeah, it's just the way they basically got around it in a way that I'm going to broadly class it as time travel because that is basically what it is. But she gets saved through time travel. Sorry, Ed, I'm kind of ruining this for you. But that's how she ends up where she is, like alive still. So, yeah.
I think it's a case of if you didn't see the body, she didn't die. No body, no death.
Yeah, I suppose.
A character that was in anything other than the Clone Wars.
She appeared in The Mandalorian, but that's about it.
What,
she was
Ahsoka,
created
yeah,
for Clone Wars.
Yeah, she was in.
She wasn't a George Lucas creation. She was.
Well,
Favreau.
technically, she was because she was in Clone Wars. So George Lucas and Dave Filoni did that together.
What? So George Lucas done the Clone Wars cartoon.
Yeah. So basically, in the cartoon, she is Anakin's apprentice.
Right. Okay.
Now you might be thinking that don't make any sense. Where was she in the original trilogy? Right. You might have also been thinking, where was she in Revenge of the Sith? But they covered that because basically what happens is she leaves the Jedi Order. So effectively, she's technically, by the time you get to Ahsoka TV series, she's not actually a Jedi, if you want to be technical. She left.
That's why she's got white sabers.
Well, the reason they're white is because she took them from an Inquisitor that had bled them, which is why they were red. And she purifies them. When you purify them, they turn white. That's why her blades are white. Sorry, I read and know too much of this stuff. I preferred the original George Lucas reason for why blades were red, because originally the reason was that the Sith used artificial crystals, which is why they were red. They were fabricated, they were made, whereas the Jedi's were like mined. That was the difference. But then they changed it to this whole bleeding your crystal by pouring dark side energy into it. Very messy and stupid, I think. I think the other way.
Cal Kestis stories, the Cal Kestis game, has the crystal calling to the Jedi. That's how you pick. That's how when you create.
Oh yeah, that does
at
happen.
the end
Yeah,
of the first game. Yeah, that's how he chose. But then you can switch. You can switch blades.
You see that in the Clone Wars. When they're in the Clone Wars, there's an episode where some Padawans go to get their crystals from a planet where they mine them, and that's exactly what happens in that episode. They call to them. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
The planet is Ilum, which is Starkiller Base.
Well, yeah, that's what they said. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And then they destroy it
because in Mandalorian you actually see them mining that planet. I don't know if you noticed that. Yeah. In one of them episodes. So they actually did put some thought into some of that, but yeah. But the thing is, I don't think they've officially said it's Ilum, though, have they? Even though the fans have worked it out, I don't think they've actually officially said it is yet.
What, Starkiller Base?
Yeah.
Yeah, the subtitle comes up in the movie.
Does it? Does it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know that in the books at one point they never actually said whether it was or not.
I think it's Ilum in Clone Wars. It's Ilum in
the it is in Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's Ilum in Cal Kestis, and it's the subtitle for the planet comes up in The Force Awakens.
Oh, okay.
It's the only planet that has kyber crystals in abundance, which is why they're mining it.
Yeah. Because like I say, I mean, I remember like the visual dictionaries and that they never put it in there, and I know that the fans all assumed, everyone was like, it's got to be there, but they never. I didn't think they'd officially said it. I didn't realize it was in the subtitles. That's interesting. Yeah. So, other than the cartoons, obviously, because the 7th series of Clone Wars, by the way, was done by Disney. The rest were done by George Lucas. So. And that's not bad, actually. Like, that's another thing that Disney did that wasn't too bad. Obviously, you got Bad Batch. I kind of watched the first season and just switched off. I kind of got bored with that.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I've heard that this season they're doing now is going to be the last one.
Yeah, I think they're doing 3 in total, aren't they?
Yeah. But in terms of the TV series, I mean, Mandalorian season 3 was a car crash. I don't know what went wrong there. Like, that was got to be studio interference or something going on there, because all of a sudden, you got Bo-Katan's now becoming the Mandalorian, and he's just standing there quiet like the bitch he is. So
guest star of the week show now, isn't it? It's guest star of the week.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Yeah,
they kind of peaked a bit though, didn't they? At the end of the second one, it's like, where do they?
I think
just trying to milk it now. Are they not since then? I love the first two. I quite like the first one.
I think it's because of the book of Boba Fett.
Oh God, yeah. Do you know what? I'd put that completely out of my brain. That's how bad that is. Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, I forgot all about that.
The best episodes of the book of Boba Fett are the episodes with the Mandalorian.
Yeah. The ones he's
so
not
it's like
in.
Mandalorian 2.5, and like there's bits in that show that are ridiculously stupid and do not fit. Like the modified guys who ride the mopeds.
Oh, on the Vespers. Oh
my
God!
It doesn't fit.
That was just Disney Pixar bollocks, wasn't it?
I kid you not. When I saw that scene, I wanted to punch my TV. I'm not even joking. Like that is terrible, isn't it? Like,
that's when you knew Kathleen Kennedy was on board.
And riding a Rancor as well. Like, what was? Oh my God!
That's the only reason I watched it, was to see what was going to happen with the Rancor. And when that happened, I was like, Holy fuck! That's just
It was
not
it
good.
was
Even Tamara Morrison has come out and said that Boba Fett should never have removed his helmet.
He
Should have
also
kept his
said he
helmet on
shouldn't
the
have
entire
spoke as
time.
much.
Yeah.
He also said he
No.
shouldn't have spoke as much, yeah. Because he don't talk a lot, does he? Yeah.
No.
Not only that, he gets his
What did he
ass
have-
kicked every time he fights someone in that as well. Have you noticed that? He constantly gets
Yeah.
battered in that. So I thought he
If
was
I
a
remember
badass.
rightly, in the original films, doesn't he only have one line of dialogue throughout all 3 films? Because he shows up as a bounty hunter. Is it in the no, in Empire Strikes Back, he
Empire.
shows up as a bounty hunter
Yeah.
in the lineup.
He has a few lines.
And
He says, "I'll
doesn't he
leave
only have
him
one
alive,"
line,
doesn't
which is
he?
"as you wish"?
He says,
Oh,
as you
yeah,
wish,
there we go, Ed.
on the bridge of the
There's
Star Destroyer. He talks in Bespin as well, doesn't he?
Doesn't he say,
Does he?
"He's no use to me dead"?
Yeah, he's no use to me dead. And then Vader says the Empire will compensate you if he dies. What's the
And
other
then in the
line
Book
he
of
says?
Boba Fett, he's spouting Tarantino length like monologues.
What's the other line? It's another line in Empire. I can't think what it is, but he says a couple of lines. But what I didn't like with that was when they changed it, though, because obviously when they changed into a clone, Django, they changed the voice. And I like the original voice. You know, like that gravelly sort of, what if he doesn't survive? It's worth a lot to me. Like when he says that, that sounds proper evil. Whereas now you've got this light speaking, like Kiwi guy saying it.
Zealand accent.
Yeah, it don't sound right. It really don't. That really took me out of the film the first time I heard that, when they did the special editions of thingy, when they re-released it, they changed that voice. I was like, I don't like that. It doesn't sound right. And of course, it was Jeremy Bulloch that played the original, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, in one of the scenes in the corridor, he actually plays an Imperial guy that's pulling Leia
does,
along the corridor as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would have loved to have met him. I never got to meet him. That would have been cool. He's dead now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Such a shame. But yeah, I just the problem with Boba Fett is that the Mandalorian story, they wanted to do a Boba Fett series and they were told no. And so as a result, they changed it and just called him the Mandalorian, Din Djarin. So then when they said, oh, you can do Boba Fett now, it's like, great, now what do we do with him? We just give his storyline to the Mandalorian. That's why that was such a clusterfuck. They had nothing to work with. Like, if you actually look at the Mandalorian, he is Boba Fett, isn't he? Just in different armor.
Yeah.
Like, you know? Oh, so bad. Even
I did quite like the first season where it was just individual. There was a bit of a very high level story arc, but apart from that, each episode was almost a bit like Next Generation. They're just going to have a bit of a ruckus, and it was simple, bit of action, but it's quite well put together. Yeah. So I didn't find it too offensive.
The thing that made Mandalorian a success is they played on samurai films and spaghetti westerns. And everything. And they took that genre and put it in Star Wars, and that's why it worked. But then after the second season, just went to shit because
he should have stayed a bounty hunter.
Yeah,
he should have stayed a bounty hunter, or at least after Grogu went at the end of season 2, he should have gone back to being a bounty hunter. Then it would have been more serious.
Yeah,
but you know, unfortunately,
Dave Filoni
Grogu
threw it off.
Toys.
Dave Filoni threw that show off by insisting on linking it to Clone Wars by introducing Bo-Katan and stuff, and the Siege of Mandalore and all that. Well, the Siege of Mandalore could have been there in the background. They didn't need to go to Mandalore. They didn't need to see the beast when he went under the water. Like, it should have just been about Din Djarin and Grogu. That's what it should have been. Like they set out in the first season. Season 3 should have been exactly the same. It shouldn't have introduced Bo-Katan. It shouldn't have had Luke Skywalker in it. And even though that seems pretty badass, it shouldn't have had Luke in it because they didn't know what to do with it. They had him go off and train, and then he was given the option of either having the lightsaber or wearing the chainmail, and he chose the chainmail. And so that whole
Yeah.
section with Luke Skywalker training Grogu amounted to absolutely nothing, and was
Well,
a waste of time.
I found out, I don't know if it's true, but one of the things I read, it was like a leak, that apparently the reason they brought him back in the Book of Boba Fett was because Kathleen Kennedy interfered and said, right, we're not using Luke Skywalker anymore for anything. So if you want Grogu to be in your series, you need to find a way of bringing him back. That's what I heard. So apparently that's the reason why he just unexpectedly just appears in the Book of Boba Fett. And of course, if you didn't watch that and you went to season 3 of Mando, you're like, hang on, where did he come from? Like,
Yeah.
so
They
yeah,
should have never brought Grogu back. He should have gone off
No.
with Luke, and that was it. Boom.
yeah, done. Yeah.
And then dealing with the Mandalorian in having to go back to being a bounty hunter because the one thing he cared about was now gone. That
Yeah.
would have worked.
Yeah. And then you get like the proper, like in the first episode, where he chops a guy in half with a door.
Yeah.
You know, and then he says that other guy, you can come in warm or cold. Like, you know, he was carbon freezing people. I wanted to see that. I didn't want to see Grogu and all that crap. Like, yeah. But
we want to see Star Wars John Wick.
yeah. Oh, can I point out also they actually mess up their own stuff as well, because at the end of season 3, where you've got so easy to forget their names because they're that memorable. The bad guy in Mandalorian, I can't think of his sudden name.
Moff Gideon.
Gus Fring.
That's how memorable he is.
Chicken Man.
Yeah. At the end, right, he's cloned himself and managed to put the Force into clones of himself. It's like, hang on a minute. Palpatine's a bit crap then, isn't he? Like, you did it. How comes he couldn't? I don't understand that. That don't make any sense to me. If he managed it, how comes Palpatine and all these cronies didn't? It's stupid, isn't it? I don't know. Bad. It's really bad, though, isn't it?
It doesn't motivate you to really want to watch much further. Like I think myself as a true Star Wars fan, but when you're very lukewarm about stuff that may or may not appear in terms of new series, it's not a good place to be, is it?
Well,
we feel like this. How people that are a bit middle of the road about stuff, they're never going to be converted into it.
No, my boys, there was a time when my boys liked Star Wars. They're not even interested now. They're not even interested. Ever since the Disney films, they're like, yeah, I don't want to watch it. It's ruined all the others for them. You know? And I kind of get it. I mean, at this point, if I'm honest, I only watch further stuff just to see just how bad it is. That's the only reason I watch it. I don't watch it because I watch it to enjoy it. I watch it because I'm like, I want to see how bad this car crash is going to be, and then take the piss out of it on YouTube. Like, you know, so yeah, it's not good, is it? Like you say, it's but I've got to be honest, even I'm reaching my limit. I'm actually thinking I don't think I'm going to watch the Ray movie, because what's the point? You know what?
Well,
it's give
it 2 months, and Kathleen Kennedy will cancel it. That's
yeah,
what
probably.
she ever does.
Yeah, true.
They announced it like what Rogue Squadron could have been amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just focus solely on it was going to be a dogfight World War II movie set in space, but they cancelled it because Patty Jenkins wasn't playing ball with Lucas's vision, or Lucasfilm's vision, or Kathleen Kennedy's stupid vision, because that woman is just ruining the entire thing. She ruined Indy. She ruined Star Wars. What's she going to do next? Get rid of her.
What about the new series coming out, The Acolyte? I mean, oh my God. You know, Harvey Weinstein's ex-assistant and Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, oh my God, you just know that's going to be a car crash, didn't you? Like, I see little clips from a trailer that leaked. It was played at one of the celebrations. It basically looks like they're trying to do a Matrix Star Wars film. It looks terrible. Like, it's all kung fu-y like. Honestly.
Well, is that the High Republic or the Old Republic? I think that's High Republic era.
It's coming at the end of the High Republic, going into the prequels.
So it's like 100 years before
something
Phantom
like
Menace.
that. And what made me laugh was when she turned around and said, "Oh, so what we're going to do is show how the Sith came to power and the Jedi diminished." It's an original story, and I'm sitting there thinking, "So you're doing the prequels, then? That's what
the
you're
Revenge
doing.
of the Sith."
Yeah, you're basically copying exactly what's already been done. But why? Like, it's not an original idea. You're ripping off George Lucas. What are you doing? Like,
Yeah. And there's
it's gonna
that
be
other one as
terrible.
well. Was it Skeleton Crew
Oh yeah,
with Jude Law?
Jude Law. And
What
he's a
is happening
Force
with that? Have they
user.
filmed it?
He's a Force
Hmm.
user as well. So, but he'll probably be a useless one because he's a man, isn't he? So he's not allowed to be a hero or good at anything, is he?
No.
Right, you know. I don't know. Anyway, I think we probably better start wrapping up because I can see that Scott's like almost ready to crash out. I think there's only so much Star Wars Scott can take. Well, Disney Star Wars, anyway.
Yeah, Disney Star Wars bores me. But I
Yeah.
will just say, because it caused a bit of a stir earlier, is I really liked Kenobi.
Oh, fucking no.
And there's two reasons for that. One is I fucking love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the fact
Yeah.
that it had Darth Vader in it. You know, yes, the stories were weak, the scripts were terrible, some of it was appallingly done.
He could walk around the laser gate instead of shooting it. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it had Ewan McGregor in it as Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I loved, and it had Darth Vader in it, which I loved. So, you know, for all its weaknesses and how shit it was, I loved it. And it kind of captured the feel to the prequels to me in how shit it was in places.
There's so many problems, right? I'm not going to go into it because otherwise we're going to keep going. But
yeah,
I was just going to say one thing, right? Vader, right? When he gets away, when the fire's there and he runs away, like Vader has the Force. I think he forgot at that point.
Yeah,
like,
but
all he
he's
had to
scared
do
of
was
fire.
grab him.
He's scared of fire, Lee. Come on.
He's scared of fire, but he could have pulled Obi-Wan right through it. I mean, that's a nice little
No,
bit of
he couldn't.
revenge, right?
The fear just engulfed him.
Like,
Yeah, but he'd already used the Force to put the fire out the first time, and then the fire started again. He could have just used the Force to put it out again.
Yeah, he could
yeah,
have done.
all that. Yeah, but personally, I would have took revenge on the guy that got him caught on fire in the first place and done the same to him. Like, you know, but that's me. You know, because I actually would know how to write this properly. Like, you know, it's just stupid. Like the bit with the gun and the gate, like literally when it backs out, you can see that there's a path down the side. He could have literally walked around it. How do you make mistakes like that? Like, there's no one proof. Like, I know it's not proofreading, but there's no one watching this before it goes out.
I still think that the Kenobi series didn't need to happen. That needed to be a film, which what was originally supposed to be. But because Solo done so bad, they canned it.
The only things I would say is that Obi-Wan, for starters, it was bait and switch, and that's the biggest problem with it. Oh, look, we're doing an Obi-Wan series, but guess what? It's not about him, it's about Reva. Like, you know, that's one problem.
Yeah. Disney do that with everything.
She's literally a human pincushion who never dies, right? And then on top of that, it's just all the rest of the nonsense that they put in there. Like, I mean, it breaks canon. Like, it makes no sense. You know, like, he leaves Luke on his own. He never would have done that. Right, and that bit where Leia's running through the woods and the guys can't catch her. Like, seriously, she's the slowest child runner I've ever seen. Anyone could have caught her. Like, a guy with one leg could have caught
Vader
her.
in it,
Like,
and it had Obi-Wan in it. That's all I can see when I watch that.
yeah,
I'm
but there's
just
one line. There's one line in A New Hope that tells you why this shouldn't have happened. We meet again at last. When I met you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Right, he's basically saying he hasn't seen him since Revenge of the Sith. So this series completely fucks that all up. It breaks canon.
Not necessarily, because
I don't necessarily mean because he's still learning.
Yeah,
when he's in, because it's only 10 years after the end of Return of the Sith, so he's still learning the ways of the dark side. He is very, very powerful. But it's the reason why Obi-Wan was able to defeat him so brutally in that show. The biggest problem that TV show has is having young Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the biggest problem.
A New Hope. Well,
the biggest problem is that Obi-Wan still didn't kill him. Like, twice now. Like, he could have killed him and he didn't.
Yeah, but he was his brother.
Even at the high ground again.
Yeah.
And did you get the line when Vader follows him to the planet? He gets off the shuttle and he says, was it, so you've come to kill me? And it's like, you've just come to me, mate. What are you talking about?
You came here.
Yeah. That's what he says. You come to kill me. And it's like, hang on, you come to me. Like, anyway, we can talk about this all night. So I think we should probably wrap it up here.
If you can find it, however, there is a 2-hour edit of Kenobi that is vastly superior.
Really?
It's cut into a 2-hour movie. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
can I say
amazing.
one word? Wade. Does anybody remember that reference? Wade. The guy in the snow speeder who gets shot down that we're meant to care about, that no one actually knows who he was.
Yeah.
The bit where the two snow speeders come in to save him. The woman screams dramatically because he gets shot down, and I think we're all supposed to care. But I remember sitting there thinking, "Who's Wade?" And then realised when I went online that I wasn't the only one who said this. But anyway,
and trying to hide Leia under his jacket.
Yeah, well, I did almost like a video meme of that, didn't I, with the Benny Hill music. So yeah. Anyway, before we wrap it up, what you guys got coming up? Scott, you got anything coming up on your channel?
Probably some live streams actually of just some gameplay.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of videos in the pipeline, but I think it'll be a live stream. Just me chatting and just playing some games. Yeah.
Specky?
Possibly. Possibly Spectrum.
Cool. Ed?
Still doing my crazy pursuit of VHS and VHS, Blu-ray and DVD. So like a lot of people getting a bit peeved with paying over the odds for streaming services, and I spend most of my time trying to find something I want to watch. So I've been buying back a lot of the films which I had a few years ago, but like an idiot plum sold. But fortunately, most of them are fairly cheap and cheerful. So I'm on about 200, I think, at the moment. I think a nice 80s, 90s, nice concise set. And on the comments, someone will say, "What about this and that?" You know, shit. So yeah, I'm hiding it in all the cupboards. Don't tell anyone.
I get the same when I do my pickups. It's always like, "But have you got this, Lee?" And it's like, "Oh shit, no, I haven't." Like, yeah, I know what you're on about.
I blame you for two of them. Tron, if I did get that.
Oh, mate,
you grabbed Tron for, was it about £4 or something from Amazon? And I missed the boat on that. So I think I got the Tron and Tron Legacy about £11 on Blu-ray. So I grabbed that.
That's good. Double pack. So, that's a good price.
That's now in the collection. But yeah, a bit of that, and then a bit of gameplay pickups, and if I managed to get to the odd event, then normally kind of film that as well. So
I've got to watch your last one because you was it a toy fair recently?
I was at the Black Country fair, so by Birmingham, Bright Hill, which is really good. Yeah, like medium-sized kind of event, but great. A lot of tubers there. Some really good people, pitching up with some nice merch. But it was as much a social as anything else. So being in pretty much the Midlands, my geography's a bit crap, middle of the country, it meant that it gets quite a good turnout from people both from up north and southern pansies like me. So it was really good.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that because it's in my watch list. I just haven't got round to it yet.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers.
Pete, what you got coming up?
I have my second and third part of my Star Wars physical media thing to do. I've done the first trilogy. Well, I've done the original trilogy. Got the prequels to come and the sequels. Another What the Fuck Did I Buy, which is my Blu-ray and DVD update thing that I do every maybe 3 or 4 weeks, depending on and the possibility of a podcast or live streams. I'm thinking more podcasts because I can generally just sit down 3 o'clock in the morning and record it, whereas a live stream I have to set aside time to be able to do it, and I work nights anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I had a bit of a break for about 11 days between videos because work got hectic, which is why I've still got the rest of the Star Wars stuff to do. But other than that,
you're getting some good numbers on your vids.
Yeah,
you're getting some good views on them. Like, I don't think your approach, like maybe 11 days away, I don't think that's bad because you're getting some good views on your videos.
Yeah. They seem to clock up over time though, so I usually get about 200-300 in about 2 days. which is usually pretty good, and then I just leave them roll and see how far. But it averages about 800 to 900 views,
That's good.
depending on the
That's
subject.
excellent.
I think
Yeah.
with your content, what it is your content's very evergreen, which means that people will watch it later on as well.
Yeah.
So it's something that will always get watched, you know. So that's good. That's what you want. You want something that's constantly getting them views, you know. You could probably at some point you could probably take a week off and still get the same amount of views because of all the content you've already done, you know. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, you know. So yeah, I like watching your vids. I always find them really informative. I mean, like if you haven't watched him, Ed, he knows a lot about movies and he owns a lot of them. So yeah, they're always good videos to watch. In fact, actually, don't watch him because he'll have you buying more stuff.
That's true. I did check out the first Star Wars trilogy one. You did, Pete, which was a spawn. But yeah, I need to go through and look at the rest of the back catalogue. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I try to not focus too much on just the actual product. I like to talk about the films as well, and like maybe the behind the scenes stuff, give a bit more information. And it's only stuff that I just pick up over the years that just gets lost. I can't do maths. I can't do anything else. But movies is my vault is my brain. My brain is my vault when it comes to movie knowledge. Fantastic in a pub quiz, but don't ask me to do maths.
Well, on my channel, I've got all sorts planned, but I don't know when it's coming out. I know that tomorrow on my collectibles channel, I've got a new video coming out. I picked up a few things recently from 1980s. So, you know, the sort of stuff that we all love. So, yeah, I've done a video on that. I've got a couple of pickup videos from my Nerdy Geezer channel, but I don't know if and when I'm going to release them because there's other things I want to do as well that I haven't got around to yet. So there is something coming. I just don't know what, but there's definitely a collectibles video coming out tomorrow night at 7. So that much I do know. So yeah, and like I say,
look forward to it.
If you like 80s toys, you'll like that. So
I've still got my Thundercats figures, my original Thundercats.
Right, well,
nice.
Right, well then you need to watch my NG Collectibles because if you like things like that, you'll probably like that video. So it's not Thundercats, but it is 80s. Right, okay. Should we get out of here, fellas?
Mask and He-Man.
You need to visit the retro realm.
And I'm starving.
Yeah, Scott made a good point. You need to get up to the retro realm, up to Scott's shop.
If you love the 80s.
Yeah.
Where is
I've done
it?
vids on there. Ipswich.
Ipswich.
Proper Aladdin's Den.
Bit of a trek from
Half
Cardiff.
the stuff around here is
maybe.
from Scott's.
Cardiff, is that where you are? Cardiff.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, yeah.
I'm in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Right, on that note, let's get out of here. See you later, guys. Thanks for watching, and thanks, guys, for coming on. It's been great. I've really enjoyed tonight.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Which reminds me, I have something here for you. Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough.
Cerveza cristal. Cerveza